Chapter 540. Kwaziki was delighted when he received this task. Now that the Immortal Alliance was at war with the demonic cultivators and the demonic cultivators, he would inevitably be involved if he stayed in Kunwu. There were only 3 nascent soul cultivators in the Spirit Beast sect, and he was the one with the lowest cultivation level. Now, not only could he legitimately leave Kunwu Mountain and stay away from danger, but he might also get a fated chance and advance in one fell swoop. Coincidentally, Zhong Si, who carried out this task with him, had known him for several years and had a good relationship with him. On the surface, he and Zhong Si didn't seem to have anything in common. One was a nascent soul ancestor of a large sect with tens of thousands of years of history. The other was an elder of a small sect who barely advanced to the nascent soul realm and struggled to maintain his orthodoxy. One was young and had a bright future, while the other was about to die. But in fact, Kwaziki felt that their situations weren't too different. He was more than 700 years old, which was half of the lifespan of a nascent soul cultivator, but he was still stuck in the early stage of the nascent soul realm. He couldn't even cultivate to the peak of the early stage, let alone advance. It wasn't easy for cultivators of a spirit beast sect to help their natal spiritual beasts advance. Many seniors with outstanding aptitudes stopped at the early stage of the nascent soul realm. His aptitude was only above average, so his advancement to the nascent soul realm surprised many of his fellow disciples. His aptitude was ordinary, and his cultivation level was stagnant in the past 200 years. Although he was the respected Grand Elder of the Spirit Beast sect, in the eyes of the head ancestor, he was no different from the head of the sect who took care of chores. The only difference was that his cultivation level was higher, and he was more presentable. If there were no accidents, he would be stuck in the early stage of the nascent soul realm until he died, just like most nascent soul cultivators. But how could he be willing to give up? As long as there was a chance, he wanted to advance to the middle stage of the nascent soul realm, even at the risk of dying. Zhong Si, who only had 200 to 300 years of lifespan left, was the same as him, or even more eager. Therefore, as soon as they accepted this task, they thought of the same thing. The secret storehouse of an ancient sect was a rare opportunity. In the past, they had to pay a great price to get such information, but now they got a clue for no reason. In the eyes of others, the map was too vague, and it was difficult to find the place where the treasure was hidden. The westernmost area was desolate and didn't even have a spirit vein, so it wasn't a good task. But he and Zhong Si had other plans. The far west was vast. If they really couldn't find any conclusive clues, then the two of them would just take it as avoiding disaster and wouldn't suffer any losses. If they found something, then it would be a great opportunity for them. With this in mind, they came to the far west. Unexpectedly, this time, the heavens really cared for them. Midway, they stopped at an oasis and accidentally found the place where the ancient cultivator had died. They found a complete map on the ancient cultivator's body. Comparing this map with the incomplete one in their hands, they found that the secret storehouse was in Sandstorm City. Before leaving, the two of them took away all the things in the temporary cave residence. They didn't expect that the ancient senior cultivator's spirit beast bag would preserve a strange insect that had survived until now. Hundreds of flying insects swarmed out and chased after the two of them. After fleeing to the vicinity of Sandstorm City, they finally got rid of the exotic insects. They just stopped at a small town nearby to recover their spiritual aura. When they were about to explore according to the map, they happened to run into Qin Shoujing and Mo Qingwei from Xianqing School. He was jealous of these two people. Or to be precise, there weren't many cultivators in the Celestial Pole who didn't envy them. Their cultivation path was so smooth that people couldn't help but envy them. They were young, but they already advanced to the nascent soul realm. Qin Shoujing, in particular, had double spiritual roots like him, but he actually succeeded in forming his nascent soul at the age of 200. Moreover, he also advanced to the middle stage of the nascent soul realm early. With a lifespan of 1,000 years left, he might have a chance to advance to the deification realm. If possible, he really didn't want to disclose this matter to them. However, When he remembered that Lord Daoist Xianin from Xianxing School was one of the people who took the map from the beast cultivator, he and Hua Zong finally decided to pull them into their group. On the other hand, Qin Shoujing's divine power was outstanding. If he joined them, they would have a higher chance of success. After entering Sandstorm City, they found that the great formation inside was only difficult to crack, but didn't have any real danger. So they immediately suggested splitting up. If they could deal with it, they didn't need to share the treasure with these two people. If it was beyond their ability, it wouldn't be too late to send them a message. Even if they were discovered midway, they could use the excuse that they just found the entrance. However, he never expected that, just as he and Zhong Si were about to break the formation, the devil cultivator that Qin Shoujing and the others found would actually appear. That blue-skinned male cultivator seemed to look down on them and only ordered his maid to attack. Hua Ziki was furious, not only because this person killed his spiritual beast, the spirit-seeking butterfly, but also because they looked down on him. Asterisk, 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 the golden-winged great roc let out a cry. That female devil cultivator, named Hong Xiao, snorted contemptuously. The strange windmill-like weapon in her hand spun and pounced on the golden-winged great roc. Huaziki sneered and lashed out with the whip in his hand. The whip kept lengthening and coiling towards Hong Xiao. Hong Xiao didn't even look at it. Her figure changed hundreds of times, and she passed through the whip. The double-edged dagger in her hand ruthlessly stabbed at the golden-winged great roc. The golden-winged great roc opened its mouth, and a bolt of lightning struck at Hong Xiao. Lightning spells were the most powerful among all spells, especially since this golden-winged great roc was already in the 8th rank. Unable to dodge, Hong Xiao held the double-edged dagger in the middle and pulled it back into 2 daggers. Then she crossed her hands, and the crossed daggers easily blocked the lightning. Ziki's expression darkened. He originally thought that since he and Zhong Si were both in the early stage of the nascent soul realm, and these 2 devil cultivators were also in the early stage, they might not necessarily be weaker than them. It wasn't until now that he realized he underestimated devil cultivators. There are almost no real devil cultivators in Kunwu. Even that abnormal master Song, Feng, wasn't a simple devil cultivator. For tens of thousands of years, devil cultivators have been refused entry to the north of Demonic Mountain, which made them all underestimate their strength. In fact, in terms of one-on-one combat, devil cultivators were stronger than them. It was just that there weren't many devil cultivators, so they were always suppressed. Brother Zong, Huaziki was about to call Zhong Si to help, but when he looked around, he found that Zhong Si was fighting with the devil aura around him. The 5 elements flags and the devil aura were entangled, and Zhong Si couldn't break free. As for the male devil cultivator, he was still standing on the side, coldly watching him fight with Hong Xiao. Ziki's heart sank. Only now did he understand what Qin Shoujing meant by his mysterious divine ability. This male cultivator seemed to be only in the early stage, but his strength was far above his and Zhong Si's. He couldn't help but regret. Why did he want to take the treasure for himself and send Qin Shoujing and Mo Qingwei away? If the 4 of them joined forces, they could definitely defeat these 2 people. But it was too late to regret. He could only hope that Qin Shoujing and Mo Qingwei could detect the spiritual aura fluctuation and arrive in time. Just as he was thinking about this, he suddenly felt pain in his chest, and his spiritual breath became chaotic. His natal spiritual beast, the golden-winged great roc, was stabbed by Hong Xiao. The golden-winged great roc rolled down from the sky after its wing was stabbed by a dagger. It managed to stabilize itself and cried at Huaziki. An 8th rank spiritual beast already had spiritual intelligence. The golden-winged great roc was asking him for help. Seeing that his spiritual beast was injured and couldn't resist, Huaziki lashed out with his whip towards Hong Xiao. Under his interference, Hong Xiao had no choice but to retreat. At this moment, the male cultivator who had been standing in the air all along suddenly looked towards the north. We can't delay any longer. With that said, the silver fake hand suddenly expanded and reached towards Zhong Si. Ah! Hearing the scream, Ziki turned his head and his expression changed dramatically. That male cultivator's fake hand crushed Zhong Si's head just like that. Even his nascent soul couldn't escape. Fear welled up in his heart. Without much time to think, he teleported to the golden-winged great rock side and put it into the spiritual beast bag. Then, he turned into a ray of light and fled into the distance. Want to escape? The male cultivator snorted coldly. A giant hand suddenly appeared in the air and ruthlessly squeezed towards Huaziki. This time, it was Huaziki who screamed. His body was squeezed into a pile of flesh. Even his nascent soul, which had just escaped, couldn't escape in time and was squeezed into a mist of blood. The mist of blood dispersed. The male cultivator wiped the blood on the fake hand he took back. Young master. The maid Hong Shao picked up the two people's things and offered the sheepskin scroll. The male cultivator took the sheepskin scroll and said, "Let's go." Not long after they left, two rays of light appeared in the sky and quickly landed. Seeing the ground full of flesh and blood and Zhong Si's headless corpse, Qin Shi frowned. We're late. Sensing the spiritual aura fluctuation, the two of them immediately rushed over. However, Fengsha City wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. Even if the two of them flew at their fastest speed, it still took them less than an hour to reach the spiritual aura fluctuation. Huaziki and Zhong Si were already dead. Looking at the pieces of flesh scattered on the ground, Emo Tienga endured her disgust and said, "These two people are really ruthless." She'd seen many corpses, but she'd never seen such a disgusting one. The people she was joking with a few days ago turned into a pile of flesh just like that. She glanced around, bent down, and picked up a palm-sized piece of metal from the sand. He waited and said, "This is black gold." Black gold? Mo Tienga was surprised. Black gold was a precious material for refining tools, especially suitable for forging swords. It was relatively common in ancient times, but it was rare nowadays. For sword cultivators, one or two pieces were hard to find. They once saw it in a secret place in ruins of NC, where cultivators from ancient sects used it to make mechanisms. How could he just pick up such a precious thing so casually? "It seems to belong to those two," Qin Shi said. This piece of black gold was shiny and didn't look like it was left behind from ancient times. Mo Tienga took the piece of black gold from his hand and looked at it carefully. She said, "This piece of black gold is cut very neatly and has almost no impurities. It doesn't seem to be a simple material. And if it's a material, it might be something from ancient cultivators." Qin Shi suddenly noticed that Mo Tienga's expression became very strange. So he asked, "What's wrong?" Mo Tienga gave him the piece of black gold. "Touch it." As soon as Qin Shi touched it, he discovered that there were very fine engravings on the surface of the black gold piece. The two of them looked at each other. Mo Tienga took out an ink box from her chinquan bag, dipped the piece of black gold in ink, and pressed it on the back of her hand. She took the piece of black gold away. The lines on the back of her hand were messy, forming a messy pattern. When the two of them saw this pattern, they looked up at each other and blurted out, "A map." Chapter 541. After learning about the existence of an ancient secret storehouse in Fengsha City and seeing such a brilliant formation here, Mo Tienga was almost certain this was the place where Shao Xilan died. Shao Xilan was a disciple of Xuanji School, and Xuanji School was a major formation sect. The Xuanji formation book they passed down was exquisite and could be regarded as the best formation technique in the world. Wanderers Away, who had been Shao Xilan's husband for 200 years, had such attainments in formations, so Shao Xilan, as his legitimate successor, must be a great formation master. In a place like Fengsha City, cultivators who came to explore together would definitely invite a formation master. Shao Xilan was undoubtedly a good choice. If this was really the case, this Fengsha City was a dragon's pool and tiger's den. Even a formation master like Shao Xilan died here. Mo Tienga played with the Jinwu slip in her hand and thought for a while. She said, "I'm not sure about breaking this Fengsha City's formation. Not to mention things that were far away. Just this obvious big formation and the countless small formations within it were things that she couldn't understand. She nodded to show his understanding. In the past few days, they had been trying to figure out this big formation. Although he wasn't good at formations, he knew this formation was far beyond the level of formations in the cultivation world. Even if they brought all the formation masters in the celestial pole here, they couldn't guarantee they could break it. However, the possibility of Xiao Xilan dying here was very high. This was related to Mo Tinga's life, so they had to try even if they weren't sure. "Let's take one step at a time," he said. "We have to try." Mo Tinga also sighed and nodded. She turned around and walked around. Finally, he stopped in front of the sandpit. "Look here." Mo Tinga looked in the direction he was pointing and was stunned. She saw several mid-grade spirit stones scattered around the sandpit. They seemed to be arranged randomly, but if she looked carefully, she would find some kind of pattern. Around the spirit stones, there were also intersecting lines drawn with beast blood. Breaking a formation with a formation, she muttered to herself, then crouched down to demonstrate it. A moment later, she patted the dust on her hands and stood up. Fellow Taoist Zong is quite unique in formations. He actually came up with this method. Seeing her relaxed expression, she asked, "Do you have a solution? I could try to complete this formation." Mo Tinga said, "It's hard to say whether I can break it or not, but I have a good chance. That would be the best solution. Since Ziki set up this incomplete formation here, the entrance is most likely here." Mo Tinga hesitated for a moment. "Do you think those two devil cultivators will come again?" She said, "Probably not in the short term. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to leave." "Yes." Mo Tinga crouched down and started to mend the formation. Shi, on the other hand, took the piece of black gold and examined it carefully. This black gold piece should be the clue Lord Taoist Xianin and the others obtained from the beast cultivators. The black gold plate was black and glossy. There were fine scratches on both sides. If one didn't touch it carefully, it would be hard to notice. He imprinted the engravings on both sides of the paper and studied them carefully. The engravings on both sides were two maps. One of them had the outline of a mountain range, and one could barely tell that it was the terrain of the extreme west. The other should be a map of a maze. The strange thing was that the two maps were not complete. According to the map, there were at least two fragments. Could it be that the two demonic cultivators had obtained one of the fragments? These two maps could only confirm that it was the extreme west. No wonder the Immortal Alliance didn't have too much hope. The extreme west was so vast that the possibility of finding it wasn't high. But how did they know that this map showed the secret storehouse of a big ancient cultivation group? She held the item and walked around the sandpit while pondering. It wasn't until he accidentally used his divine sense to explore the inside of the black gold piece that he suddenly understood. This piece of black gold was not only used to engrave a map, but there was also an enchantment sealed inside. It seemed that this item was also the key to the place where the treasure was hidden. According to the records left behind from ancient times, some sects would seal enchantments inside certain objects and use them as keys. However, based on this item alone, it was impossible to confirm that the secret storehouse was in the Sandstorm City. Huaziki and Zong Si must have found other clues. Unfortunately, their things were taken away by the two devil cultivators. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Time passed by. Mo Tinga had been calculating the incomplete formation left by Zong Si. At first, she studied the two maps, but later, he simply sat on the side and meditated. Those two devil cultivators didn't come again. They didn't know whether it was because they had other goals or because they didn't want to fight with them. 2 days later, Mo Tinga finally clapped her hands and said happily, "It's done." She opened his eyes and stood up. "There's a result?" The formation left by Zong Si can be considered repaired. Next, we could try to see if we can crack this small formation. Mo Tinga laid a formation flag in the center of the formation and put down the last spirit stone. Buzz! With a soft sound, hundreds of spirit stones lit up at the same time, forming a light shield. A bright white light appeared in the center of the light shield and shot into the sandpit. Boom! After the loud noise, there was a rustling sound. All the sand in the sandpit leaked out. A moment later, the sandpit was empty, replaced by a big black hole. Both Motinga and She were happy. They didn't expect things to go so smoothly. They came here without knowing there was a secret storehouse here. Huaziki and Zhongxi's accidental death benefited them. The spiritual aura of the spirit stones on the ground was completely absorbed and turned into powder. Motinga erased the traces of the formation and asked Shi, "Do we go down?" Shi thought for a moment and said, "Put your puppet down first. Maybe there's some traps inside." She took out the jade bone puppet from her Chinquan ring, put the crystal jade in it, and ordered it to jump into the hole. Boom, 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 boom. As soon as the puppet jumped in, several explosions rang out. Motinga felt the puppet was hit by something and almost fell down. Fortunately, this puppet was made of incomparably solid nephrite, holy spiritual jade, so it only swayed a bit before it steadily descended. When it safely fell to the bottom, it flew up again. The traps inside the hole were activated again. The puppet flew up wobbly and was hit countless times. When the puppet flew out, Motinga touched the tiny wounds on its body with distress. Fortunately, the white robe it wore was a defensive magic weapon, so these were just scratches and wouldn't affect its strength. She replaced the crystal jade that had used up all its spiritual power and ordered the puppet to jump down again. She repeated this several times until the traps inside no longer activated. "Okay, let's go down." She waved his arm. The three-yong real fire sword appeared and turned into several sword lights, surrounding the two of them. "Let's go." ****, young master. In another corner of Fengsha City, the maid named Hong Xiao asked, "Why don't we kill those two Dao cultivators?" She had been holding back this question for 2 days. With young master's personality, he should have killed anyone who got in his way, but this time, he chose to avoid them. She knew young master's personality, so she didn't dare to ask him. Now, seeing that he was still cultivating unhurriedly, she couldn't help asking, "What's the hurry?" The male cultivator sat cross-legged to adjust his breath, not even opening his eyes. Hong Xiao bit her lip and said, "I'm afraid Castellan will think I'm incompetent." Upon hearing this, the male cultivator opened his eyes and raised his eyebrows. "You're quite frank." Hong Xiao lowered her head. "It's useless to lie in front of young master. I'd better be frank." The male cultivator laughed. "No wonder you could follow Shuang for so long and even made her break the rules to help you advance to the nascent soul realm. You're indeed a smart person." This smart wasn't a praise of her intelligence, but that she knew how to adapt to the situation. Hong Xiao lowered her eyes and felt a bit sad in her heart, but she didn't dare to show any expression and let him see it. She silently thought, although the Castellan's personality was cold, he was a straightforward person. Why was young master so gloomy? This male cultivator seemed to be in a good mood and explained, "The two Dao cultivators we killed had average strength, so it's fine if we killed them. The other two aren't easy to deal with." Hong Xiao wasn't sure if he was saying that she wasn't strong enough, so she carefully said, "It's all because I'm a burden to young master. It's not your fault. Even if you can win against that female cultivator, I'm not sure I can win against the other person." These words surprised Hong Xiao. Young master's supernatural power is amazing. If it wasn't a late nascent soul cultivator, who could make young master feel troubled? There are many geniuses, but I'm not the only one. The male cultivator had an emotional expression. "I thought that besides the great cultivators, no one in this world could be my opponent. It turns out that I underestimated others." Hong Xiao didn't speak. Now wasn't the time for her to speak. As he sighed, the male cultivator suddenly frowned and sneered. It's another two juniors in the early stage of nascent soul. They're really daring." Hong Xiao also sensed that 2 people were flying over. The strange thing was that one was a devil cultivator and the other was a Dao cultivator. It was said that devil cultivators and Dao cultivators in the celestial pole were sworn enemies, So why would a devil and a Tao pair travel together? As she thought about this, the two people got closer and closer and appeared in their field of vision. Hong Xiao put her hands together and held her dagger together to guard against other people's attacks. One of the two people was relatively young and expressionless. He wore a green robe and carried a sword on his back. The other looked like a small old man with thin skin and black clothes. The former was a sword cultivator, while the latter was a devil cultivator. The two people landed in front of them, and the four of them sized each other up warily. A moment later, the black-robed old man seemed to notice something and was the first to step forward. "Are the two of you from Yinzhong?" The male cultivator raised his eyebrows, and his hostility faded slightly. He looked at them. "You are." The old man grinned, and his face wrinkled. He pointed at the male cultivator's waist. "This fellow Taoist belt has the symbol of Night Owl City embroidered on it." The male cultivator lowered his head and saw that his outer robe had been slightly blown open by the wind, revealing half a black mark. He couldn't help but look at this old man in a different light. The mark on his belt was very small, and under normal circumstances, he wouldn't notice it at all. This old man was really attentive. He softened his tone and said, "Yes, we're indeed from Night Owl City. Who are you? What are you doing here?" The old man said, "This fellow Taoist and I are individual cultivators from Yunzhong. We came here to look for treasures. Are you here to look for treasures?" Although Yunzhong and the Celestial Pole now had connections, this place was thousands of miles away from Yunzhong, and it was also incomparably desolate. Apart from looking for treasures, they didn't know what else they could do. The male cultivator didn't hide anything. "Yes." As he said that, he sized up the two people with his vigilance. "I wonder where you got the news that there's treasure here?" The next moment, his eyes widened in surprise because the old man took out something. It was a piece of black gold that was as big as a palm. Chapter 542. "This thing, where did you two get it?" the male cultivator asked coldly. The old man laughed. "It seems that your excellency also has a piece." The male cultivator didn't say anything and just looked at them coldly. The old man put away the black gold piece, his smile disappeared, and he looked at them from the corner of his eyes. "Your excellency, do you want to rob it?" Before he finished speaking, the male cultivator's fake hand suddenly expanded and grabbed the old man. In an instant, the old man turned into a mass of devil aura, disappeared from where he stood, and appeared 10 feet away. Clang! With a clear sound, the sword cultivator's sword jumped out from his back and slashed at the giant hand. The male cultivator snorted, ignored the sword, and continued to grab the old man. The next moment, the sword slashed the giant hand, making a sharp sound. The male cultivator's expression changed. He immediately withdrew his hand and looked at the sword cultivator in shock. The sword cultivator smiled faintly, shook his arm, and withdrew his flying sword. He said slowly, "Fellow Taoist, long time no see." The male cultivator stared at him carefully for a while and was a bit surprised. I'm Jianxin." The sword cultivator's face was thin and somewhat bony, but when he smiled, his eyes were like peach blossoms. He said, "More than 80 years ago, your excellency met once." The male cultivator stared at them without saying anything. Jianxin smiled, touched his sword, and said, "Your excellency seems to overestimate yourself. Killing people and stealing their treasures isn't that easy to do." The male cultivator clenched his fists. If one looked closely, they would find that the hand Jianxin cut was slightly trembling. After a long time, he asked with a dark face, "What do you want?" "Nothing." The one who answered was the old man. He slowly walked to Jianxin's side, his face trembling, and said, "We all came from Yunzhong. It's really fate that we can meet in the Celestial Pole. Why don't your excellency take out the item and cooperate with us?" The male cultivator's expression was gloomy. He stared at the two of them and didn't say anything for a long time. "Your excellency," the old man narrowed his eyes and said again, "If you have doubts, we have nothing to say. We'll leave." The two of them turned to leave. "Wait," the male cultivator finally said, "how do we cooperate?" The old man smiled. I'm sure you also know that there is more than one copy of this map. It's very difficult to find treasures with just the one you have. If you combine the two, your chances will increase greatly. The male cultivator's eyes flickered. How do we split that thing? The two of you, the two of us. All four of us are at the early nascent soul stage. Naturally, we'll split it evenly. The male cultivator didn't answer for a while, and the old man in Jinshin didn't urge him. After a while, the male cultivator finally said, "All right, how refreshing." The old man took out the black gold piece again. "Would you like to take it out for us to take a look as well?" The male cultivator didn't say anything. He took out a similar black gold piece from his chinquin bag and shook in front of him to show that he wasn't deceiving them. The old man and Jinshin looked at each other and nodded. The old man cupped his hands in greeting. "I'm called Black Robe, but my name isn't well known. I'm a loose cultivator from Yunzhou." He pointed at Jinshin. "This is fellow Taoist Jinshin. You seem to know him, so there's no need to introduce him." The male cultivator nodded stiffly and said, "My name is Tian Xian, and this is my maid Hong Xiao. We're from Night Owl City. Nascent soul cultivators from Night Owl City. You two have extraordinary identities," Black Robe said with a smile. The cities in Yunzhong's Devil Domain were different from sections. Under normal circumstances, only the city lord was a nascent soul cultivator. If there were other nascent soul cultivators, most of them were successors or had an unusual relationship with the city lord. The male cultivator, named Tian Xian, raised the corner of his mouth, but didn't say anything. He didn't seem to like answering. Black Robe and Jinshin didn't care about it and began to discuss the details of their cooperation with Tian Xian. Fellow Taoist Tian Xian, wait. Tian Xian looked at the two of them and asked, "I wonder if you two mind telling me where you got your black gold piece?" Black Robe grinned and asked instead of answering. "A few months ago, fellow Taoist Tian Xian participated in the Cloud Wing City auction held by the Yuan Province Merchant Union, right?" Hearing this, Tian Xian's eyes flashed, and he answered, "That's right. The black gold piece in his hand was the one he bought at that auction. After the world changed, the Yuan Province Merchant Union's branch in Yunzhong took out many treasures to auction in order to raise money and search for the Yuan Province. This black gold piece was one of them." Tian Xian stared at the two of them. "It seems that you also went to that auction." "That's right. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have known what this black gold piece could be used for." Tian Xian narrowed his eyes and didn't understand what he meant. "Fellow Taoist Tian Xian, you haven't told me where you got your black gold piece." Black Robe laughed. "I'm not as rich as you, fellow Taoist Tian Xian. 3 million spirit stones is not enough even with all my assets. Otherwise, I would have used all my savings to buy the black gold piece in your hands." Seeing that Tian Xian was a little impatient, Black Robe cut to the chase. "I obtained this item by accident a few hundred years ago. I didn't know what it was used for and didn't take it to heart. It wasn't until a few months ago, when I went to Cloudwing City to participate in an auction, that I found out that this item was related to an ancient treasure trove. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough assets to buy the black gold piece in your hands. After that, I bribed a steward of the Yuan Province Merchant Union to get the information about the treasure that came with the black gold piece." "I see." After confirming that it had nothing to do with the Yuan Province Merchant Union, Tian Xian's expression relaxed. If the Yuan Province Merchant Union deliberately sold the item, they would have to look for trouble afterward. Black Robe asked, "Fellow Taoist Tian Xian, you arrived earlier than us. Did you find any clues?" Tian Xian shook his head. "We encountered 4 Taoist cultivators earlier and killed 2 of them. The other 2 were quite strong, so we escaped here and took a rest for the time being. There are others." Black Robe frowned and said, "Fellow Taoist Tian Xian, can you take out the map on the black gold piece and compare it to confirm it?" Tian Xian pondered for a while, then took out a roll of paper from his bosom. "The map is here." Black Robe also took out a piece of animal skin. The two of them stepped forward and compared the map in their hands. They were both stunned. "It doesn't match?" The two of them stared at each other in surprise. The black gold pieces in their hands were exactly the same in size and style. They didn't expect that the map wouldn't match. You too. Jian, who was holding his sword, said, "Look at this map. The strokes are exactly the same. It should be the same map." Black Robe turned to him. "Fellow Taoist Jian, what do you mean?" Jian raised the sword in his hand and knocked the hilt between the paper and the animal skin. "There's a piece missing in the middle, so you can't match." Black Robe and Tianxin thought for a while and nodded in agreement. "It seems that those Taoist cultivators should have another piece of the map," Black Robe said, and then asked Tianxin, "Fellow Taoist Tianxin, are they cultivators of the celestial pole?" "Yes." Tianxin nodded. "This is a bit troublesome." Black Robe touched his beardless chin. "The cultivators of the celestial pole may not cooperate with us." Tianxin said, "They only have 2 people left, and we have 4. We could just rob them. Why cooperate?" Black Robe raised his eyebrows and then smiled. "You're right." He paused and asked, "Since we want to cooperate, what should we do next?" "Fellow Taoist Tianxin, do you have any opinions?" "Naturally, we should take the map first." Tianxin was expressionless. "We'll have more confidence in finding the treasure when the 3 maps are combined." What fellow Taoist Tianxin said makes sense. "Shall we look for those 2 Taoist cultivators first?" "Yes." Tianxin's eyes flashed and said, "This sandstorm city isn't small, and these sand piles are very strange. It won't be easy to find 2 people." "Then what do you mean, fellow Taoist Tianxin?" "Let's split up." Tianxin said, "We'll meet up after we find them." Black Robe thought for a while and nodded. "Okay." With that, the 2 sides exchanged communication jade talismans and left separately. After 15 minutes, they couldn't sense the other party's aura anymore. Hong Xiao, who had been silent all this while, asked doubtfully, "Young master, we already know the entrance to the treasure place. Why should we cooperate with them?" Tianxin's face darkened. "These 2 people are extraordinary. If we don't cooperate with them, are we going to fight them to the death? But didn't they plan to leave at that time? Do you really believe that they'll leave?" Tianxin glanced at her. Don't underestimate nascent soul cultivators. If we don't agree at that time, they'll definitely plot against us in secret. Instead of being on guard against their plots, it's better to agree first. This way, they won't make a move before they have the confidence to defeat me." "I understand." Hong Xiao said, "Young master is doing this to stall for time. When the city lord arrives, we'll kill them all." "Not bad. You're not too stupid." Hong Xiao bit her lips and lowered her head as she silently followed behind him. After walking for a while, Tianxin sighed. "I underestimated them. That celestial pole cultivator is fine, but even Yunzhong has such a hidden early-stage cultivator. That Jianxin is only 80 years old, but he's already so much stronger." Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk on the other side, Black Robe and Jianxin were having a conversation. "Why should we cooperate with them?" Jianxin frowned and said, "Those 2 people are from Night Owl City. It's very likely that Demon Monarch Night Frost is behind them. When she arrives, how can we fight against a late-stage nascent soul cultivator? At that time, we'll have to obediently hand over the map in our hands. We might even lose our lives." "You think I didn't think of that?" Black Robe's voice changed. "They want to stall for time, which means that Demon Monarch Night Frost won't arrive in a short time. I know where the entrance to the treasure place is. Why don't we follow their wishes and stall for time? When Demon Monarch Night Frost arrives, we'll have already taken the treasure away. Isn't that wonderful?" Jianxin thought about it carefully. It was indeed the case. Tianxin's strength was extraordinary, and he had an early-stage nascent soul maidservant by his side. Instead of fighting to the point where both sides were injured, it was better to use tricks. Even if Demon Monarch Night Frost came, with only 1/3 of the map in their hands, it wouldn't be easy to find the entrance in a short time, right? Chapter 543. With the Jade Bone puppet leading the way, Imo, Tienga, and Qin, she safely jumped into the deep pit. Imo Tienga waved her sleeves back and forth, sweeping away the dust caused by the activation of the mechanism. She then took out the Heaven and Earth fan and relied on the Mother Moonstone at the tail of the fan to illuminate the place. She was a little surprised. She had seen the map and thought that there would be an underground city below. She didn't expect that it was just an ordinary stone path. She waved his sleeves. A wisp of sword light separated from his body and moved forward along the stone path. The stone path was clearly illuminated by the sword light, but the surface of the rocks were glowing red, as if magma had suddenly solidified. Tinga looked up. The hole above her was very far away, and there was only a glimmer of light. It was not strange for there to be magma in such a deep place. What was strange was how the magma had solidified into rocks. She touched the surface of the rock and said, "This should have been created by a cultivator with a profound cultivation level using a divine ability. Is that so?" Tinga also touched the rocks. She discovered that the surface of these rocks was ice cold and didn't have the slightest heat. From the looks of it, these rocks were originally magma. There was a powerful cultivator who caused the temperature of this place to suddenly drop, condensing all of it into rocks, creating this underground passage. This kind of method wasn't too rare. Tinga herself could do it. However, maintaining it for hundreds of thousands of years was not the ability of a nascent soul cultivator. Sure enough, there were mysteries hidden under the sandstorm city. Let's go. The sword light probed the stone path. After confirming there were no problems, she started walking. Tinga answered, then followed him. The stone path was not wide and could only accommodate 2 or 3 people walking side by side. The J-Bone puppet was walking in the front, followed by Tinga and Shi. Although the nascent soul heavenly tribulation completely destroyed her offensive magic weapons, the great benefits she obtained from this trip to sea of returning ruins far outweighed her losses. The J-Bone puppet, the Cosmos ring, the great heavenly thunder technique, and the many crystals and high-grade spirit stones were far more valuable than a few ordinary magical treasures. Besides, what she lost were all offensive artifacts. These things could be replaced, and those artifacts with unique functions could all be repaired. The J-Bone puppet walked in front and did not encounter any danger. Even so, the two of them didn't relax their vigilance. She kept releasing his sword aura, and Tinga also didn't relax her art of primordial singular energy. Heavenly lightning also floated beside her. After walking for a while, Tinga raised the back of her hand and looked at the map. She silently recalled the path they had just taken and compared it with the map. She said, "It's different from the route on the map. I don't know if it's a missing part or if this place isn't on the map at all." She said, "It's very likely that this part wasn't drawn on the map." "Oh, why do you say that? Did you notice? The space drawn on the map should be sealed." Tinga raised her hand and drew a line on the periphery of the map, enclosing the entire route. According to this pattern, the missing parts should also have this line, so this place should indeed be sealed. She continued to say, "The details on this map are detailed and meticulous, and the plan is neat and tidy. It might be a building similar to an immortal's cave." Tinga nodded in agreement. A secret storeroom. Since it was a secret, it had to prevent others from discovering it. The storeroom was used to store items, so it needed special protection. This stone passage should lead to the outer part of the secret warehouse. In that case, we can only explore this part of the road by ourselves. And she paused for a moment, then asked, "Have you ever wondered why such a map would appear?" Tinga was puzzled, not understanding what he meant. She said, "As far as I know, only the people in charge of the sect know about the secret storeroom. For example, in our Xianxing school, only senior martial brother Xinjiang knows the location of the secret storeroom. Other people, including the sect head in charge of the storeroom, also don't know. This is the case in every cultivation group. There are no exceptions." Upon hearing what he said, a thought flashed in Tinga's mind. What if senior martial brother Xinjiang suddenly died and couldn't tell us the location of the secret storeroom in time? She smiled and pointed at the piece of black gold in her hand. "So, I think this thing should be used to prevent that kind of situation from happening." Tinga thought for a while and said, Such an important thing shouldn't be casually leaked, right? Logically speaking, Qinshi said, as far as I know, there are also copies of the map of Xianqing School's secret storeroom in the hands of several people, including our master. If Lord Taoist Jinyang died unexpectedly, then Lord Taoist Jinghe would be the person with the highest cultivation level in Xianqing School, so it was very reasonable for him to have one of the maps. So this piece of black gold should also be like this. It's divided into several parts and in the hands of several people. If something happens to the person in charge, they have to combine them into one, find the exact location of the storeroom, and pass it on. So, what he said was very reasonable, but how could it help their current situation? She continued, so as long as we reach the storeroom marked on the map, we'll be very safe. However, in order to prevent things from falling into other people's hands, the road outside must be very difficult. It's even possible that they'll set up a deadly trap and inform the younger generation of how to crack it. In this way, the secret storeroom had several layers of protection. The map was divided into several parts. If there was a problem with the sex inheritance, the map couldn't be combined to obtain the treasure. The method to crack it would be passed on separately to prevent outsiders from obtaining the map and taking away the things in the storeroom. As for the complete restriction sealed inside the black gold piece, it might be a precaution. If the sect encountered a major crisis and the map wasn't completely passed on, they could use this thing to obtain the treasure. However, at that time, without the complete map, they would have to search for the treasure by fumbling around. Whether they could find it or not would depend on their gamble. In this way, if it was just a power struggle, the cultivators of those big cultivation groups didn't have to pay such a huge price to find the secret storeroom. If the sect encountered a crisis, the secret storeroom would be the sect's last hope. For them, finding this place already saved them a lot of time and effort. What they had to overcome was the danger on this road. In this case, there was still a problem. Senior Marshal Brother, Mo Tinga thought for a moment, then said, if this cultivation group is very strong and the person in charge has a very high cultivation level, or even is about to ascend, doesn't that mean we can't crack this road with our strength? She smiled. Did you forget? There are no spirit veins here, so the restrictions and formations they laid are probably ineffective. Mo Tinga said, but what if they're good at mechanisms? Even if they're mechanisms, their power can't always remain the same, right? Mo Tinga thought for a moment. Mechanisms could indeed be preserved for a very long time. The mechanisms in the sea of returning ruins were proof. However, with the passage of time, the mechanisms were likely to become loose. Although they could still function, their power would decrease. Moreover, mechanisms relied on materials. Mechanisms that could be preserved for such a long time needed extremely precious materials, so they couldn't be made without limit. With this thought, her confidence in this trip increased greatly. Moreover, she thought of another aspect. Wanderer Ziwei knows mechanisms, so presumably Senior Xiao Xylin also knows mechanisms. If she really came here, the mechanisms in front must have been cracked. Moreover, she was confident that her mechanical technique was much stronger than Xiao Xilin's. Even in the profound secret sect, the mechanical technique that was passed down was just the tip of the iceberg. The inheritance that she obtained from the returning ruins Sea's secret land was the true ancient mechanical technique. Things went as they expected. Along the way, there was no danger. Many of the restrictions and formations had lost their effectiveness. Even if they hadn't lost their effectiveness, they didn't have much power. As for mechanisms, there were indeed mechanisms, but most of them had been destroyed. Because of this, the two of them were even more certain that someone must have been here, and it was very likely Xiao Xilin's group. Half a day later, the two of them walked through the outermost stone passage and suddenly saw a wide, open space. Mo Tinga looked around. The place in front of them looked more like an immortal's cave. The wide stone passage was wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side. The ground was covered with neat and tidy bluish-gray stone slabs. The surrounding stone walls were embedded with many colorful gems for illumination. These gems weren't like moonlight stones, which only had the function of illumination. At the same time, there were also rare materials. Although they weren't enough to make nascent soul cultivators fight over them, if all of them were collected, they would be an amazing fortune. If they were ordinary treasure hunters, coming here and taking away the gems could be considered a worthwhile trip. However, this wasn't their goal. Looking at the whole stone passage filled with gems, Tinga and Shi's eyes were filled with amazement, but they didn't have any greed. What amazed them was that although these gems weren't rare treasures, ordinary people couldn't collect so many of them. It seemed that the sect this secret storehouse belonged to was quite powerful. They weren't greedy because they had seen a lot of spiritual treasures. These materials weren't that precious to nascent soul cultivators. We have to be careful, she said. Tinga nodded lightly and let the jade bone puppet walk in front. There were traces of embedded gems at the front of the stone passage, but there were no gems, so they must have been taken away. These traces only lasted for 3 to 5 meters before they stopped abruptly. There was even half a gem that hadn't been dug out. It was very likely that something happened when they dug it out. Therefore, this part of the road might be dangerous. Following behind the puppet, the two of them stepped on the stone slabs and slowly walked forward. After walking for 3 to 5 meters, the puppet stepped on a stone slab. Suddenly, the ground shook slightly and the slab under its feet turned over. The two of them were very cautious and immediately retreated. At the same time, Tinga controlled the jade bone puppet to fly in the air. By the time the two of them stood still, the stone slabs on both sides of the stone passage had disappeared. The stone slab in the middle of the passage also disappeared. Tinga looked down and her scalp suddenly went numb. Underground fire was burning under this stone passage, and between the fire, there were densely packed fire ants crawling all over it. This kind of fire ant fed on fire and was born with spiritual aura. One wasn't that powerful. Even a small aura refining cultivator could kill them, but if there were thousands of them, even a nascent soul cultivator might not be able to deal with them. The two of them protected their bodies with spiritual aura and held magic weapons in their hands, ready to fight. Chapter 544. Countless fire ants rushed up like a tide, bringing with them a gush of blazing fire spiritual aura. The earth fire here wasn't the highest grade of extreme yang real fire, but it wasn't too bad either. Tinga thought that there was no spiritual aura on the ground of Fengsha City, so she didn't expect there to be spiritual fire deep underground. There must be a spirit vein here, but it was small and deep underground, so there was no spiritual aura on the ground. Buzz! With a buzzing sound, Shi's 3 yang real fire sword turned into countless small swords and attacked the fire ants. Wherever the swords went, the fire ants retreated one after another. Tinga made a hand seal. Then her whole body flashed with lightning, and she also rushed forward. Among all kinds of spells, fire was the most destructive, and lightning was the most powerful. With 1 fire and 1 lightning, most of the fire ants were killed in no time. The two of them walked on the stone slab in the middle and slowly walked forward. They fought as they walked. 2 hours later, the two of them crossed the stone path and arrived at a stone room. As soon as the two of them stepped into the stone room, they heard the sound of chi-chi. The stone slabs that had been flipped over had all been flipped over, and the fire ants had disappeared. Seeing this, Tinga sighed. It can still recover after it's activated. This mechanism is really amazing. She didn't answer. He stared at the stone path for a long time without moving. Seeing this, Tinga pulled his sleeve. "Seen your martial brother?" She regained his composure and said, "Did you notice that as soon as the mechanism was activated, spiritual aura leaked out? There's spiritual fire here, so there's naturally a spirit vein. Since there's a spirit vein, the restrictions here are probably still intact." Tinga had thought of this before, but she wasn't worried. It doesn't matter. The spiritual aura on the spirit mountain in Returning Ruins C is so abundant that the restrictions are still weakened. This is just a small spirit vein. Even if the restrictions are still intact, they should be easy to break. She thought about it. and nodded in agreement. The two of them rested for a while and were about to start again when they suddenly heard rustling sounds behind them. They turned around and saw the stone slab was turned over again. Tinga was surprised. What's going on? They already passed this stone path. Why was the mechanism activated again? Someone's coming. Shi's divine sense had already detected other people's breaths. They're both in the early stage of the nascent soul realm. Could it be that those two devil cultivators have already arrived? No, that's not right. One Taoist and one demon, not those two. The two of them looked at each other in confusion. There were only two Taoist cultivators and Huaziki. Huaziki and Zhongxi were already dead. How could there still be Taoist cultivators? Could it be that people from the Sandstorm City had come again? One Tao and one devil. Tinga was bewildered. Could it be that the male cultivator brought someone else here? Those two demonic cultivators were obviously not as strong as them. Maybe the male cultivator had found some helpers. The Far West was so far away, but they found helpers so quickly. Could it be that their partners were behind them? It's all right. Upon seeing Tinga's questioning gaze, she shook his head lightly. As long as they're in the early stage of the nascent soul realm, they're probably not my match. With the vermilion bird bow, he was now able to go toe-to-toe with late-stage cultivators. No matter how powerful early-stage cultivators were, there was no way they could match late-stage cultivators. For example, Jing Xingji was a sword cultivator who practiced ancient secret techniques. He could be said to be a top-notch existence among early-stage cultivators, but he was only a bit stronger than ordinary middle-stage cultivators. He was far from being a match for late-stage cultivators. Seeing how confident he was, Tinga didn't say anything. She thought for a moment, then said, "These two people not only killed Huaziki and Zhongxi, but they also found their way here. Could it be that their goal is also this secret storehouse?" It's very likely. One secret storehouse is already enough in Sandstorm City. It's impossible for there to be too many secret places. After a pause, he suddenly thought of something and said, "If they really came for the secret storehouse, I'm afraid they also have a map." Understanding the meaning behind his words, Tinga said, "Should we wait here and rob them?" She smiled. "That'll save us a lot of trouble." Tinga thought about it and also smiled. "All right, they attacked first, so they can't blame us." She glanced around and didn't find any danger, so he found a corner and sat on the ground. "Let's recover our spiritual aura first, then we'll strike first." Tinga also looked around and chose a place. She let the puppet hold the Fuxing sword and lay an ambush on the side. Then she arranged a spirit-concealing formation and also sat down. This stone path was very long. The divine sense of early-stage cultivators couldn't spread to this far, so those two people probably hadn't found them yet. For hours later, the sound of spells being cast came closer and closer. Tinga opened her eyes and saw that she had stopped adjusting his breath and was listening attentively. When he saw her opening her eyes, he raised his index finger and signaled her to be quiet. To avoid alerting the enemy, they didn't use their divine senses to monitor the situation. At that moment, they only heard the sound of spells being cast getting closer and closer, mixed with the sound of light footsteps. "These two people have extraordinary strength," she said through his divine sense. "They came here in such a short time. Although the fire ants were not strong, they could fly and crawl. There was no end to them. They were very troublesome. The two of them walked for more than 2 hours. The two of them only took a little longer than them." Tinga listened for a while, then said, "It seems there's a sword cultivator?" The sound of sword aura was the clearest and sharpest, so she most likely didn't mishear it. She frowned slightly. "Be more careful." By the time he finished speaking, the two men had already arrived. The moment he stepped into the stone room, the mechanism closed again with a series of creaking sounds. "Phew!" Someone gasped and was about to speak when a sword light suddenly swept over silently. He was so shocked that he swallowed his words. Clang! That person used his flying sword to block Shi's sword aura. Their sword chi clashed, and when they looked at each other, they were both shocked. At the same time, the puppet lying in ambush raised the Fushing sword and slashed down. Boom! The other person moved even faster, and a ball of demonic chi assaulted the puppet, forcing it back several steps. Mo Tienga took a step forward, holding the heaven and earth fan. Just as she was about to make a move, she was also stunned. The nascent soul battle, which was on the verge of breaking out, suddenly stopped. The four people stared at each other without speaking for a long time. Cough. Finally, someone coughed. Qin Shoujing, you're really haunting me. Why do I run into you everywhere I go? Qin Shi waved his sleeve, withdrew his sword aura, and instead of answering, he asked, why did you return to the celestial pole? Sword cultivator Jinshin, who was also Jing Xingji, wiped his face, revealing his true appearance. He put his sword back into its sheath and curled his lips. Whether I return to the celestial pole or not, what does it have to do with you? Then it's also none of your business that I'm here. After not seeing each other for 3 years, Jing Xingji was so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. Can you two talk properly? Mo Tienga withdrew her puppet, turned to Jing Xingji, and asked the same question. Fellow Taoist Jing, why did you return to the celestial pole? Facing Mo Tienga, Jing Xingji put away his rebellious nature and answered, I have nothing to do in Yuanzhou, so I went back to the celestial pole. He looked at Qin Shi and Mo Tienga in bewilderment. What are you doing? Why did you come to the celestial pole? We have a mission, Mo Tienga said. What about you? I'm not telling you. Jing Xingji smiled complacently, looked them up and down, and said, you two are doing well. Your cultivation levels have improved again. You're doing well too. Your sword aura is even more powerful. Mo Tienga glanced at his flying sword, which shone with a cold light. He must have refined a lot of crystal jades. Jing Xingji jealously stared at her puppet without saying anything. Mo Tienga smiled, then turned to the other person. What about you? We haven't seen each other for so many years. How'd you been? The old devil cultivator was stunned. You know who I am? You have primordial devil aura on you. Who else could it be? Mo Tienga said. There were only a few people who practiced the primordial devil art. Mei Feng was dead. Yang Chengji didn't know how to disguise himself. And Master Songfeng was already in the late nascent soul realm. She didn't believe she would run into another person who practiced the primordial devil art. The answer to who this person was obvious. The old man's eyes flashed. He reached out to his chin and peeled off a layer of soft skin mask. Under the mask was a young and delicate face. Long time no see, Niao Wushang said. Her voice was clear and pleasant, no longer hoarse and old. Mo Tienga was about to say something when she was surprised. Your voice. In the past, not only was Niao Wushang's voice hoarse, but she also spoke ventriloquism. How come now? Niao Wushang smiled and said, I've advanced to the nascent soul realm. Mo Tienga was stunned, but then she suddenly understood. Once a person advanced to the nascent soul realm, their body could be reconstructed. She couldn't speak before, so she must have been injured somewhere. Now that she could speak, she must have recovered after she advanced to the nascent soul realm. Upon seeing Niao Wushang's sincere smile, Mo Tienga said sincerely, congratulations. She was congratulating Niao Wushang for advancing to the nascent soul realm and also congratulating her for getting rid of the shadow of the past. When they met in Yunzhong, Niao Wushang psychologically got rid of Master Songfeng. And now, the scars left on her body by Master Songfeng were also gone. Niao Wushang understood. She stared at Mo Tienga with sparkling eyes. You too. Not only did you return safely from Yunzhong, but you also successfully advanced to the nascent soul realm. Enough. Jing Xingji interrupted their conversation. Don't congratulate me here and there. I'll congratulate the two of you. Isn't that enough? We don't have much time. We'll catch up later. Jing Xingji said sternly, let's talk about our purpose in coming here first. We all know in our hearts that running into each other here definitely wasn't a coincidence. Running into each other in the far west could be considered a coincidence, but running into each other in the underground stone passage leading to the secret storehouse, this probability was too low. Even if their purpose was different, their destination must have been the same. The four pairs of eyes stared at each other for a while before Tinga coughed and took out the black gold piece. I guess you also have this thing, right? Upon seeing this thing, Niao Wushang said, turns out the last piece of the map is with you. It seems the Dao cultivators, those two Yunzhong devil cultivators mentioned were you. Yunzhong devil cultivators? Tinga and Qin, she glanced at each other. Those two people turn out to be devil cultivators from Yunzhong. Why did devil cultivators from Yunzhong come here? We'll talk about this later. Niao Wushang stared at them. Now that we've confirmed that our purpose is the same, should we cooperate next? Is there a need to ask? Tinga said, if I don't cooperate with you, should I cooperate with those two devil cultivators? They also have the map, right? Niao Wushang smiled. All right, then let's compare the map first and see how we can cooperate. Chapter 545. The two of them took out a pair of maps. Sure enough, they were connected together except for the bottom piece. Two pieces are missing one piece. What about the remaining map? Jing Xingji asked. Tinga glanced at him. If you want to snatch it, just say it. We all know what kind of person you are, so you don't need to pretend. Jing Xingji coughed and said, it might not be appropriate to snatch it now. Qinshi looked at him and asked, what do you mean? We're in the celestial pole, and they're only in the early stage of the nascent soul realm. What's wrong with snatching it? It wouldn't be a problem if there were only two of them, but we speculate that they're probably followed by a cultivator in the late stage of the nascent soul realm. A cultivator in the late stage of the nascent soul realm. Tinga and Qin, she looked at each other in surprise. What's their background? They're from Nighthawk City, Niao Wushang answered. Nighthawk City? Tinga thought for a moment. Is it Devil Monarch Night Frost? It's just a guess, Niao Wushang said. You've been in Yunzhong for a long time, so you should know that there's usually only one nascent soul cultivator in a devil city. She didn't finish, but Tinga already knew what she was implying. Yes, it seems these two people have an unusual relationship with Devil Monarch Night Frost. Niao Wushang continued. So we think Devil Monarch Night Frost is probably following them for such an important matter. A secret storehouse was a temptation even cultivators in the late stage of the nascent soul realm couldn't refuse. If they weren't acting on their own, Devil Monarch Night Frost would definitely come. Qinshi nodded and looked at Jing Xingji. So, do you think if we snatch their map now, we won't have a chance to turn back when Devil Monarch Night Frost comes? If you're sure you can defeat a cultivator in the late stage of the nascent soul realm, forget what I said. Jing Xingji shrugged and said very straightforwardly. Qinshi didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pondered for a while and said slowly, I can fight a cultivator in the late stage of the nascent soul realm, but I might not be able to win. Protecting myself shouldn't be a problem. What if they disregard everything and risk their lives to kill us? Jing Xingji asked again. After a moment of silence, Qin, she said faintly, that'll depend on your own luck. Not to mention anything else, great cultivators in the late nascent soul realm had been stuck in the nascent soul realm for hundreds or even thousands of years. Their natal magic weapons and unique divine abilities had been nourished and cultivated for countless years. The advantages accumulated over such a long period of time were no small matter. Even though Qin, she was known as a genius and had many fated chances, he still wasn't their match. After all, which cultivator who cultivated to the late nascent soul stage was not a genius? Who didn't have fortuitous encounters? Qin, she glanced at him. What do you mean by that? Jing Xingji rubbed his nose and said, I'm just suggesting a possibility. That Night Frost Demon Monarch is a woman, and women tend to be emotional, even if they've cultivated to the nascent soul realm. Why are you all looking at me? Tinga withdrew her gaze as if nothing had happened, but Niao Wushang let out a humph. Then what do you think? Qinshi asked. Jing Xingji said, I think that before the matter is clear, We should pretend that we don't know each other and propose a three-way cooperation. It won't be too late to decide after we find the storehouse. If they found the storehouse smoothly, it didn't matter whether they snatched the map or not. If those two devil cultivators played tricks on the way, the four of them could just kill them. As for Night Frost Demon Monarch, if she really came later, they could just save some trouble and give up some treasures. The four of them weren't insatiably greedy people. If Night Frost Demon Monarch wanted to turn hostile, they wouldn't stop her unless she attacked indiscriminately. If the four of them worked together, they might have a fighting chance. Qinshi was the first to agree, and Mo Tinga also said she had no objections. As for Niao Wushang, she should have discussed it with Jing Xingji. After the four of them reached an agreement, they continued to move forward while talking about what happened after they parted. Mo Tinga sent Niao Wushang a voice transmission. How did you get together with Jing Xingji? Niao Wushang gave her a helpless look and also sent her voice transmission. I ran into him by chance. She then talked about what happened after they parted. When they parted in Guifang City, Mo Tinga traveled in Yunzhong, while Niao Wushang concentrated on refining primordial devil aura. The primordial devil aura she swallowed was Meifeng's preparation to directly advance from the early stage to the late stage. Although it wasn't complete, the energy it contained couldn't be underestimated. It was enough for her to advance from the core formation realm to the nascent soul realm. After Mo Tinga left, she entered closed-door meditation for more than 40 years and advanced to the nascent soul realm in one fell swoop. Mo Tinga did some calculations. Niao Wushang advanced to the nascent soul realm only a few years after she formed her nascent soul. Niao Wushang didn't hear about what happened in the Sea of Returning Ruins until she came out of closed-door meditation. This was a major event in the cultivation world of Yunzhong. It was related to most of the nascent soul cultivators in Yunzhong and various big forces. Low-level cultivators didn't know much about it, but high-level cultivators knew everything. Niao Wushang felt sad when she learned Mo Tinga was locked in an independent space and probably couldn't come out. But in less than 2 years, she heard Mo Tinga not only left the secret place in the Sea of Returning Ruins safely, but also advanced to the nascent soul realm and turned Yunzhong upside down because of her nascent soul tribulation. Mo Tinga asked, "What happened to Yunzhong after that?" "I went to Yuan province after the heavenly tribulation. After I came back, I've been in closed-door meditation. I only came out not long ago, so I haven't had time to inquire about what happened in Yunzhong." This question made Niao Wushang laugh gloatingly. "You definitely don't know how big of a trouble you've caused." "What?" Mo Tinga didn't understand. Her nascent soul tribulation only destroyed most of the sea beasts in that area of the sea, but it didn't matter to Yunzhong. There were many demonic beasts in the Sea of Returning Ruins. Niao Wushang said, after the heavenly tribulation that day, it triggered cracks and tsunamis. One Leaf Island's great island-protecting formation was torn, and the whole island sank to the bottom of the sea. "What?" Mo Tinga was shocked. "So you're saying Yunzhong lost a lot of high-level cultivators?" Many core formation cultivators gathered on One Leaf Island. If they all died, the number of nascent soul cultivators in Yunzhong would be greatly reduced in the next few hundred years. "Not that many," Niao Wushang said. "Many nascent soul cultivators gathered on One Leaf Island. Although many of them went to chase you, many of them stayed there to maintain the situation. When they saw the situation wasn't good, they brought those cultivators back to the mainland. It's just that those cultivators who didn't return from hunting beasts have disappeared forever. Fortunately, Mo Tinga felt lucky. Although I didn't directly cause this, so I don't have to bear the karma. If so many people really died, I wouldn't feel good." Niao Wushang chuckled. "In any case, it's related to you. You're really a jinx." Then she said, "One Leaf Island disappeared, so Yunzhong is in big trouble. You also know that most of the resources of Yunzhong's high-level cultivators come from One Leaf Island." Mo Tinga nodded. "In that case, Yunzhong hasn't been very good these past few years." "Yes." Niao Wushang shook her head. One Leaf Island has been in operation for tens of thousands of years. How can it be built in just a few years? Besides, the southern end of Yunzhong is no longer the sea of returning ruins, and there are far fewer sea beasts there. In my opinion, Yunzhong has already lost its advantage in resources. Now, it's not much better than the Celestial Pole. Speaking of spiritual lands, the Celestial Pole also had a lot of them, but they lacked the resources of the sea compared to Yunzhong. Now, that Yunzhong lost One Leaf Island and was no longer connected to the sea of returning ruins, it no longer had an advantage. Tinga looked a little happy. If that's the case, the Celestial Pole and Yunzhong won't have to worry about being suppressed if we join forces. Nie Wuxiang looked calm. Who's stronger or weaker has nothing to do with me. The only person related to her in the Celestial Pole was Master Songfeng, but he was a shadow in her life. And Yunzhong had nothing to do with her. Seeing her expression, Tinga sighed inwardly and changed the topic. You haven't told me how you met Jing Xingji. Nie Wuxiang showed a bitter smile and answered, Later, the world changed and Yunzhong and the Celestial Pole became connected, so I returned to the Celestial Pole. Who would have thought that as soon as I arrived at Tiandao Sect, I would run into this guy? She glanced at Jing Xingji. I see. Tinga nodded. Then why did you come here? Nie Wuxiang lowered her head and fiddled with the black gold piece in her hand. After a long time, she finally said, I stole this thing from my master. Tinga was stunned and extremely surprised. Could it be that the fated chance Master Songfeng obtained was here? Sure enough, Nie Wuxiang's next words confirmed her guess. Back then, what my master obtained from Demonic Mountain was precisely this thing and a complete map. Maybe his luck came, and he found this place according to the map. The restrictions in this place had already been cracked, so he found his way inside without any mishaps and obtained the primordial devil great art. I see. Tinga nodded, but she soon frowned. She felt something was wrong. The primordial devil great art, based on her experience, this thing was probably related to the stone tablets in the Five Spirits sacrificial temple. Could this place be related to the Five Spirits sacrificial temple? Explaining this matter to Nie Wuxiang would be very troublesome, so she might as well not talk about it. Before I returned to the Celestial Pole, I participated in an auction in Yunzhong. That auction happened to have another black gold piece, which was the one in the hands of those two devil cultivators. So, I came back to prevent the treasure from being taken by someone else. Since that's the case, do you know how to go on this path? Nie Wuxiang shook her head and said, I came here with my master when I was young, but I was too young at that time and couldn't remember clearly. Besides, I only stole this black gold piece. My master always carried the complete map with him, so I didn't get it. For so many years, Nie Wuxiang had been concentrating on cultivating and hadn't earned any spirit stones. She must have stolen one of Master Songfeng's Qinkuan bags. So, you came here to look for treasures? Nie Wuxiang nodded, then shook her head. Looking for treasures is incidental. The main reason is for cultivation techniques. Cultivation techniques? Tinga was confused. Aren't you practicing the primordial devil great art? Yes, but the primordial devil great art I have isn't complete. Nie Wuxiang sighed. The primordial devil great art was comprehended by my master, but he didn't remember the part after the nascent soul realm. So he had to come here sooner or later. And Nie Wuxiang glanced at Jing Xingji, then curled her lips. I'm all alone and weak. I just happened to run into this guy, so I made a deal with him. I brought him here, and he helped me take the treasure. Upon seeing Nie Wuxiang's expression, Tinga pondered for a moment and immediately understood what was going on. She couldn't help but smile. You extorted a lot of good things from him, right? Sure enough, Nie Wuxiang glared at Jing Xingji with resentment. She quickly composed herself and asked, What about you? Why did you also come here? Chapter 546. Along the way, as Nie Wuxiang said, most of the restrictions and traps were cracked, leaving only a few behind. Including the fire ant traps in front, they weren't too powerful. A foundation-building cultivator with good luck and sufficient preparation might be able to break through. The great art of primordial devil and the secret storehouse. Tinga thought mockingly. Sure enough, the heavens couldn't distinguish between good and bad people. Master Song Feng obtained a fated chance. So how could those cultivators who cultivated properly but couldn't break through endure it? However, Master Song Feng, who was still a small cultivator back then, wasn't necessarily less diligent than these cultivators, nor was he as temperamental and murderous as he was today. No one was born a bad person. Qin Shi and Jing Xingji, who were walking in front, stopped. Tinga looked up and couldn't help but widen her eyes in surprise. In front of them was a vast space with towering stone forests decorated with earthly fires. When they looked up, they couldn't see the top. It didn't look like underground at all. The three of them all turned to look at Niao Wushang. "Don't look at me," Niao Wushang said. "I don't know how to walk this path." Jing Xingji was the first to lose his cool. "Then why did you say you'd take me to the storehouse?" Niao Wushang spread her hands and said somewhat shamelessly, "I didn't say I knew the way. Wouldn't it be fine if I took you to the storehouse in the end?" "You?" Jing Xingji stared at her incredulously. He didn't expect he would be tricked and was speechless for a long time. Niao Wushang ignored him and said to Tinga, "This path was originally full of traps, but later some senior cracked them. Now it's just a simple maze. As long as we walk out of it, we won't be far from the storehouse." Tinga nodded. This underground stone forest should have been created by opening up an underground space. The long stone pillars were connected to the top, so they could only walk but not fly. The distance between the stone pillars was neither too far nor too close, so they could walk anywhere, so there was no path to follow. Just as they were about to spread out their divine senses, Niao Wushang said, "These stone pillars themselves have the effect of misleading divine senses, so we can't use divine senses to explore the path here." Tinga and Qin Shi paused and withdrew their divine senses. "So, we can only walk step by step?" Qin Shi asked. "Pretty much. If it weren't for Senior breaking the formations and mechanisms here, we would have most likely died trying to pass through this stone forest. Right now, we're just walking through the maze, which is already very good." Soon after, Niao Wushang added, "My master has come here many times, but he also walked through the maze. It was 80% likely that Xiao Xilin and her team were the ones who had broken the array formations and mechanisms here." Tinga thought to herself, Xiao Xilin was indeed worthy of being the successor of Xuanji School. She was able to crack most of these mechanisms merely by relying on the sporadic mechanisms passed down from the distant past era. Along the way, there were only a few mechanisms that weren't completely cracked. With such attainments in mechanisms, why was she still unable to return? What had happened to her in this underground storeroom? Was it a formation mechanism that far exceeded their realm? Or was it an internal strife? She pondered for a moment, then said, "Sandstorm City can interfere with divine senses. Is it because of this stone forest underground?" Tinga couldn't help but nod. It's very possible. She could only understand part of the formation above, so it was only a guess that it could interfere with divine sense. "My master also thinks so," Niao Wushang said. "Then let's go." Now that things had come to this, it was useless to argue with Niao Wushang. Jing Xingji glared at her fiercely, then turned around and took the lead to enter the stone forest. "Why didn't you leave a mark?" Tinga asked as they entered the stone forest. "Leaving a mark isn't very useful." Niao Wushang spread her hands. "Divine senses will create illusions here, and there's no way to go. Whether it's leaving a mark or pulling a string, it'll be a mess in the end. It'd be better to look for traces left by predecessors. I remember my master also has a way to remember routes." Tinga thought about it and agreed, so she didn't say anything more. Although it wasn't very useful, they still left their marks along the way. At least they could find out if they went the wrong way. "Did you really come here for a mission?" Niao Wushang asked again. Before they could finish talking, they already arrived at the stone forest. Tinga shook her head, then answered, "There's no harm in telling you. We came here for our own matters. This thing is actually someone else's mission." She then told Jing Xingji about their encounter with Huaziki and Jing Xingji, including their deaths and how they obtained the black gold pieces. As for their encounter with the two devil cultivators, she had already told Jing Xingji. In the end, Mo Tinga said, "Now it seems that Senior Xiao Xilan probably died here. That being the case, let's explore the way and finish this mission." "Really?" Nie Wuxiang cast a sidelong glance at her with a faint smile. "All right." Under her gaze, Mo Tinga had to confess. "Once we find the storehouse, we'll take some things out." Nie Wuxiang nodded, very satisfied with her answer. "Right, you've been to the storehouse. Did you see any skeletons or anything on the way?" Nie Wuxiang shook her head. "No. My master also said that when he first came here, he found that the traps and restrictions had long been cracked. Someone must have been here, but the storehouse was intact, and he didn't find any traces of those fallen cultivators." "Is that so?" Back then, Master Songfeng could reach the storehouse smoothly even though he was only in the foundation building realm. Obviously, the traps and restrictions along the way were no longer a threat. Then why did Xiao Xilan die here? Or were they wrong? Maybe this wasn't Xiao Xilan's burial place? There's one possibility. Nie Wuxiang knew what she was thinking, so she said, "There's a passage outside the storehouse. I don't know where it leads, but there might be some clues." Passage? Mo Tinga's thoughts turned. She recalled Master Songfeng's primordial devil great technique and couldn't help but guess. Could this passage lead to some sacrificial temple? Ahead of them, Qin Shi and Jing Xingji suddenly stopped. Jing Xingji shouted, "Look, there's a mark here." Mo Tinga and Nie Wuxiang moved closer. As soon as she saw the tadpole-shaped mark, Nie Wuxiang's eyes brightened. "This is my master's mark," she said. "Keep walking. If you see this mark, follow the direction of the tail. My master came here many times. This is the route he took, so it can save us a lot of trouble." The three of them didn't object and kept walking. The stone pillars were densely packed and extended in all directions. Often, after walking for a while, they couldn't find the mark anymore. However, Master Songfeng's route was a lot of repetitive, so they often walked around and saw another route. The four of them went back and forth. After spending several hours, they finally came out of the maze safely. Mo Tinga looked at the magnificent underground stone forest and couldn't help but sigh. "I really don't know what kind of divine power the ancient cultivators had. They could actually open up such a wonderful underground world." Nie Wuxiang nodded. "If those people were trapped in the maze, we'd save a lot of trouble. At that time, we just need to take the treasures and go out. There's no need to fight over them. Treasures couldn't be taken casually in this underground storehouse. Otherwise, Master Songfeng would have emptied the storehouse long ago after coming here so many times." Therefore, Nie Wuxiang felt that there wouldn't be any conflict as long as she could get what she wanted if she entered the storehouse at the same time to look for treasures. But the problem was, if they entered the treasured land at the same time, who would be at ease with the other party? She coveted the treasures in the other party's hands, but she also had to guard against the other party making the first move. Unless the strength of the two parties was balanced, a fight was inevitable. Nie Wuxiang stole Master Songfeng's treasures and ran away, but this was Master Songfeng's fated chance site. She felt guilty and didn't want to fight with others. She shook his head. "If there are really late-stage nascent soul cultivators following them, I'm afraid this maze won't trap them for long. Let's move faster." After leaving the stone forest, there was a natural karst cave in front of them. The cave was low and had many hanging stalagmites. It extended in all directions and had countless interconnected cave entrances. They went in here and came out there, just like a natural maze. After passing through several checkpoints, all the mechanisms and restrictions were cracked without exception. The four of them arrived at the entrance of the storehouse without any danger. However, when they looked at the storehouse, Mo Tinga, Qin Shi, and Jing Xingji all doubted their eyes. The Storehouse of Ice Palace, a great ancient cultivation group in returning ruined sea, with a huge ice cave. It was magnificent and incomparably gorgeous. At first glance, one could tell it was no small matter. But what about the storehouse in front of them? The low cave didn't have any decorations. It was completely different from the magnificent stone forest just now. It looked like a low-level cultivator's immortal's cave. Even if it was a secret storehouse, wasn't this too simple and crude? You didn't go the wrong way, did you? Jing Xingji looked at Nie Wuxiang suspiciously. Nie Wuxiang snorted through her nose and didn't answer. Mo Tinga looked at the cave in front of her. The cave entrance was narrow and didn't have any decorations. It was so gray that she almost ignored it. But even so, she didn't dare to look down on the storehouse at all. A layer of hazy light covered the cave entrance. Even if they didn't do anything, they could still feel the invisible, spiritual aura pressure. Asterisk, 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 a woman in purple fluttered down from the sky of Sandstorm City. She was as cold as frost and as beautiful as a peach. Hong Xiao, who was under the sand tower, went to greet her. Lord, the woman in purple nodded. Her face was cold and expressionless. Shuang, seeing her, the gloominess on Tianxuan's face finally faded a little. It was Devil Monarch Night Frost, the Lord of Night Owl City. She was still expressionless, but there was a hint of softness in her eyes. How is it? She asked while looking at Tianxian. Her voice was as cold as snow water, clear and transparent. I found it. Tianxian waved the sheepskin scroll in his hand and handed it to her. But it's a bit troublesome. Devil Monarch Night Frost took it, flipped through it, and threw it back to him. What kind of trouble? There are two other groups of people, Tianxian said. One group is cultivators from the Celestial Pole, and the other group is nascent soul individual cultivators from Yunzhong. There are two people in each group. How's their strength? Not bad. Tianxian frowned. The cultivators from the Celestial Pole are a man and a woman, one in the middle stage and the other in the early stage. I fought with the one in the middle stage, and I wasn't his match. As for the one in the early stage, Hong Xiao couldn't do anything to him. The two individual cultivators from Yunzhong are both in the early stage. One is a devil cultivator, and the other is a sword cultivator. The sword cultivator's strength is extraordinary. He broke my Azura hand. Devil Monarch Night Frost's gaze was fixed. Your hand. Tianxian raised his arm. It's okay. I was just careless. I told you to be careful when you come to the Celestial Pole. You've lived two lives, so how could you still be so careless? Devil Monarch Night Frost's voice was cold, but there was no reproach in her tone. If one listened carefully, they would feel a trace of warmth. I know. Tianxian looked at her and said gently. Devil Monarch Night Frost looked away as if she wasn't used to such a gaze. Okay, let's get down to business. What's the situation now? Chapter 547. Crystal Jades. Looking at the dense formation inlaid with crystal jades in front of them, the three people except Nie Wuxiang cried out. Nie Wuxiang didn't know that each of them had a lot of crystal jades, so she thought they were surprised to see treasures. It's because of the crystal jades that the protective formation here won't fail. The protective formation in front of them had thousands of crystal jades. Even in the Middle Ages, it was still a great fortune. Unfortunately, this formation was very profound. There was no way to crack it or take it down. The three people quickly calmed down. Jing Xingji asked, "What's next? What's the hurry?" Nie Wuxiang walked forward. There was a small groove in the center of the protective formation. Nie Wuxiang took out the black gold piece and gently put it down. Boom! The originally hazy light barrier suddenly lit up. The transparent light wall dispersed and turned into specks of dust, forming a white light curtain. Let's go in. Nie Wuxiang took the lead and walked towards the light curtain. The light curtain seemed to be invisible, so Nie Wuxiang went through it without any obstacles. Seeing this, the three of them followed suit. As soon as they entered the cave, Mo Tinga couldn't help but narrow her eyes. The light from the surrounding spiritual treasures almost blinded the four people's eyes. Top-grade vast quartz stone. After adapting to the light in the cave, Jing Xingji glanced around and happily rushed forward. Although the Grand Spirit Stone was not too rare, it was an excellent material for nurturing swords. It was very popular among sword cultivators, and a small piece was worth thousands of spirit stones. But in this inconspicuous storeroom, the excellent Grand Spirit Stone was just casually piled up in the corner. Nie Wuxiang's lips curved when she saw his appearance, but she didn't say a word. In the next moment, with a buzzing sound, a white light shone, and Jing Xingji suddenly stopped moving forward. "What's that?" he shouted. Nie Wuxiang took pleasure in his misfortune. "If there weren't any restrictions, my master would have taken everything away long ago. Why would he wait until now?" Jing Xingji's face darkened, but he couldn't say anything. Nie Wuxiang felt very refreshed and said magnanimously, "There's nothing special about this restriction. Just break it by force." Upon seeing Jing Xingji silently attacking the restrictions with a sullen expression, Imo Tiange and Qin, she smiled at each other, then moved to look for the things they wanted. This secret storeroom didn't contain any powerful Dharma treasures. Most of them were materials and elixirs. There were even spirit talismans at the soul formation stage and above to ensure that the spiritual qi wouldn't be lost. Imo Tiange gave it some thought and understood. The reason for the existence of the secret storehouse was that after the sect suffered a blow that was almost annihilated, they could still preserve a bit of incense and hope to restore the sect. Materials and elixirs were the foundation of cultivating disciples. With enough materials and elixirs, the sect would be able to grow rapidly. Magic treasures, on the other hand, were different. Without sufficient cultivation, one would not be able to unleash the power of magic treasures. Just having magical treasures without cultivation was like a tree without roots, water without a source. It could not last long. The possibility of them finding a powerful magic treasure in this storeroom was very small. However, the materials in this storeroom were all rare top-quality materials. This trip was definitely a huge profit. Unfortunately, there were restrictions around these materials, so he could only take one or two. Before long, Qin, she took a fancy to a piece of Xian Fire Jade Essence. This piece of Xian Fire Jade Essence was 2 feet high. It was fiery red and crystal clear. Although it was half a foot long, he could still clearly see the scene on the other side. Xian Fire Jade Essence was a top-grade material used to refine fire attribute magic treasures. Back then, a piece of Xian Fire Jade Essence produced in Immortal's ruins almost caused many nascent soul cultivators to fight for it. Even Master Song Feng took action, which showed how precious it was. The quality of this piece of Xian Fire Jade Essence was similar to the one produced in Immortal's ruins, but its size was several times bigger. Qin, she summoned the 3-yang real fire sword and said to Imo Tiange, "You look for it first. If you see something you like, call me." Imo Tiange nodded and walked away alone. Although there were many materials in this storeroom, there was nothing she particularly wanted. She had decided not to refine other offensive magic treasures. She had the fan of heaven and earth and the Fuxing sword in her hands, as well as the great heavenly thunder technique. Although auxiliary magic treasures were damaged by the heavenly tribulation, they could be repaired, so there was no need to refine them. As for medicinal pills, that was what she lacked the least. A moment later, she stopped in front of an item. It was a crystal the size of a fist. It was transparent and looked like a crystal. At first glance, it was a solid object, but when she stared at it carefully, she saw that it seemed to have water ripples. After staring at it for a while, she saw a dense mist. The strangest thing was that this thing actually didn't have spiritual aura. Could it be an ordinary object? Imo Tiange muttered. She looked left and right and shook her head. This thing couldn't be an ordinary object. The restrictions around it were even more advanced than those of those precious materials. So how could it be an ordinary object? After looking at it for a while, Qin, she didn't find anything she particularly wanted. He took out the Xian Fire Jade Essence and came over. "How is it?" Imo Tiange pointed at the crystal and said, "Can you recognize this thing?" Qin, she looked at it for a while, but he still couldn't figure it out. "What's this? Why is it so strange? It doesn't look like a material from the cultivation world at all." Mo Tinga thought for a while, then said, "Let's take this thing away. Even we can't recognize it, so it must be extremely precious." Qin, she had no objection. He once again summoned the three-yong real fire sword and attacked the restrictions. The two of them worked together. They originally thought they would be able to break the restrictions very quickly, but unexpectedly, the strength of the restrictions was beyond their imagination. After struggling for a whole hour, they only managed to make a crack. When they got the crystal, Niao Wushang suddenly said vigilantly, "Someone's coming." Upon hearing this, Imo, Tinga, Qin Shi, and Jing Xingji stopped at the same time and turned around. Niao Wushang explained, "I hid devil aura on the road, and I sensed someone passing by. It's them." Jing Xingji took back his flying sword. "Can your devil aura sense their cultivation levels?" Niao Wushang shook her head. "No, but I can sense that there are three of them." The four people looked at each other. In the end, Qin, she said, "It seems your guess is correct. Then what should we do now?" Niao Wushang looked at them. "To be honest, I haven't advanced to the nascent soul realm for long, so I don't have the slightest confidence in facing a late-stage nascent soul cultivator." Mo Tinga pondered for a while, then asked, "Then should we hide?" Jing Xingji nodded, then looked at Niao Wushang. "We're here to look for treasures. There's no need to clash with them." Qin, she also nodded. Although there were many treasures here, it wasn't to the point of risking their lives. It would be fine if those three people were willing to coexist peacefully, but they might think that a late-stage nascent soul cultivator could kill all of them. Seeing that the three of them agreed, Niao Wushang didn't hesitate. "Then let's go." She then turned around and walked towards the entrance. "Where's your cultivation technique?" Before they left, Imo Tinga sent a voice transmission to her. "Did you get it just now?" Niao Wushang turned her head. Her gaze seemed to be moved and grateful. She said, "You'll know in a moment." The four of them left the storehouse. Niao Wushang closed the protective formation with a piece of black gold and led them around the karst cave. Soon they left. Before long, Devil Monarch Knight Frost took Tian Xian and Hong Xiao to the storehouse. After studying it for a while, he opened the protective formation and entered the storehouse. "We're so close. Won't we be discovered?" Jing Xingji couldn't help but ask as they walked in the karst cave. "It's fine," Niao Wushang said. "There's a formation in the storehouse that forbids divine senses. Once we leave the storehouse, the rock formations in this karst cave are also strange. Even late-stage nascent soul cultivators won't be able to discover us unless they're very close." The four of them walked deeper and deeper into the karst cave. Gradually, the air seemed to be filled with a murderous aura. "Where are we?" Qin Shi asked. Niao Wushang paused for a moment, then answered, "I'm going to look for a cultivation technique. You guys can stay here if you want." Generally speaking, things like cultivation techniques were one of cultivators' secrets, and they definitely wouldn't be told to others. Upon hearing that Niao Wushang was going to look for a cultivation technique, Qin Shi hesitated for a moment. He wanted to say that they wouldn't go with her, but from what Niao Wushang said, it seemed like she didn't mind them going with her. If he hadn't asked, she wouldn't even have told him. He glanced at Imo Tinga, but when he saw her contemplating, he asked through voice transmission, "What's wrong?" Imo Tinga raised her head to look at him, then answered through voice transmission, "I suspect the place she went to look for cultivation techniques is also a five spirits sacrificial temple." Qin, she looked puzzled. "Why?" "She cultivates the primordial devil great technique," Imo Tinga said simply. Once she said that, Qin, she immediately understood. Imo Tinga once told him about the relationship between the sacrificial temple and the primordial devil great technique. He also had a stone tablet he obtained from Mei Feng, so it was very likely related to the primordial devil great technique. Since Niao Wushang cultivated the primordial devil great technique, her cultivation technique most likely came from the sacrificial temple, so she naturally had to go there to look for it. But her cultivation technique came from Master Song Feng. Imo Tinga nodded. "Correct." Upon hearing her answer, Qin, she shook his head. "I'm afraid she won't gain anything from this trip." Imo Tinga paused for a moment, but didn't say anything to refute. When she heard Niao Wushang said she was going to look for a cultivation technique, this thought appeared in her mind. Since Master Songfeng obtained his cultivation technique here, the stone tablet should have been taken away by him. No matter how Niao Wushang looked for it, she wouldn't be able to find it. But this matter was very troublesome to explain. She thought about it and decided not to say it for now. She'd wait for Niao Wushang to see it first. Along the dark passage, the four people moved forward in silence. The murderous aura in the air became stronger and stronger. In the end, the still water sword on Jing Xingji's back clanked, as if it would be unsheathed in the next moment. Jing Xingji finally couldn't help but ask Niao Wushang, "What's going on? Where are you going?" Niao Wushang glanced at him. "It's good for you." She then walked forward regardless of Jing Xingji's questions. Jing Xingji had to restrain his impatience and follow her. The murderous aura is good for Jing Xingji. A thought flashed in Mo Tinga's mind. The Western White Tiger, Dui Jin, was a ferocious god who specialized in killing. Could this be the White Tiger sacrificial temple? Whether it was the Azure Dragon sacrificial temple or the Vermilion Bird sacrificial temple, their auras were in line with the auras of divine beasts. The murderous and ruthless aura was exactly the aura a white tiger should have. Sword cultivators cultivated swords, which belonged to the metal element. Therefore, sword cultivators had to control metal of the 5 elements. When Gujian's sect accepted disciples, metal spiritual roots were the priority. Without metal spiritual roots, sword cultivators could only use their skin and not their bones. The white tiger was the essence of metal. If Jing Xingji could absorb a bit of the white tiger's aura, he could cleanse his sword aura. For him, the benefits would be endless. With this thought in mind, the murderous aura became more and more intense. Chapter 548. At the end of the karst cave, several blue stones were scattered messily. Upon closer inspection, it turned out that the karst cave was cut off by a stone wall. Someone must have broken the stone wall to connect the 2 places. The 4 of them passed through the hole in the stone wall and stepped on a spacious stone path. "Where are we?" Jing Xingji looked around. If it was just a guess, Mo Tinga was now sure that this must be a sacrificial temple. Heavy boulders were neatly piled up to form a stone wall. The wall was smooth, simple, and deep, carrying an ancient aura. When they stood on the stone path, the vast murderous aura drowned them. Everyone felt their blood boiling, as if someone was beating a drum in their heart, making their blood boil. Jing Xingji's flying sword was jumping and even made a clear whistling sound. Mo Tinga felt something moving inside the spiritual beast bag. It seemed to be Fei Fei. She used her divine sense to say, "Fei Fei, let me out." Fei Fei's anxious voice rang in her mind. "Let me out." Mo Tinga hesitated for a moment, then opened the spiritual beast bag. In any case, Jing Xingji and Niao Wushang had seen Fei Fei before. As soon as the bag was opened, Fei Fei immediately jumped out, raised its head, and sniffed. Fei Fei? Mo Tinga didn't understand. What was it doing? White tiger's breath. This is the white tiger's breath. Fei Fei beamed with joy. White tiger's breath. It seemed this was really the white tiger sacrificial temple. Mo Tinga looked at Niao Wushang and decided to be frank. "Fellow Taoist, Nia, is this place worshipping one of the 4 spirits, the white tiger?" Niao Wushang looked surprised. "How did you know?" "You said so." Niao Wushang nodded. "Yes, this place indeed worships the white tiger." Mo Tinga and Qin, she looked at each other with surprise in their eyes. They didn't expect to bump into the white tiger sacrificial temple like this. Niao Wushang looked at them and asked doubtfully, "What's wrong?" "I know a little." Jing Xingji pressed down his flying sword and looked at Qin, she inquiringly. "Is it related to the Vermilion Bird sacrificial temple in Returning Ruins Sea?" "Yes." They had revealed some of this to Jing Xingji, but they didn't say too much. "Our guess is that this is the White Tiger sacrificial temple. Just like the Vermilion Bird sacrificial temple, it enshrines one of the 5 spirits. Jing Xingji looked at Niao Wushang, then at them. How much do you know about this matter? Let me tell you. Mo Tiange took over the conversation. This matter has to start from when I built my foundation. After spending about an hour, Mo Tiange roughly explained the sequence of events, including the divine beast's remains and the prime devilstone steel. Jing Xingji had participated in the entire Vermilion Bird sacrificial temple experience. When the time came, he would know. Besides, this wasn't some secret matter, and it wasn't a fated chance that couldn't be shared. Whether it was Jing Xingji or Niao Wushang, they were both trustworthy people. So that's how it came to be. Jing Xingji thought for a while, then suddenly beamed with joy. Last time, it was the Vermilion Bird sacrificial temple. Qin Shou happened to be cultivating a fire attribute cultivation method, so he obtained a lucky chance. This time it's the white tiger. It seems I'm lucky. Humph. Fei Fei coldly snorted. Do you think I'm dead? Of course. Only Mo Tiange heard what he said. Mo Tiange smiled and said, Fellow Taoist Jing, we still don't know whether this is the white tiger sacrificial temple or not. Aren't you happy too early? I'll be happy first. In any case, I won't lose anything. Jing Xingji stroked his flying sword with a smile. He didn't believe he was so unlucky. The Vermilion Bird sacrificial temple was fine, but he couldn't compete with Qin Shou. Now as the white tiger. Among the 4 people present, he was the only one related to the metal element. Now, no one could compete with him, right? Fei Fei once again gave him a contemptuous look. Its action was too obvious, so Jing Xingji noticed it. He pointed at it and said, Mo Qingwei, why did you release the spiritual beast? Although this little guy is smart, it doesn't have any skills. Squeak. Fei Fei glared at him angrily, its hair standing on end. Mo Tiange patted Fei Fei's head comfortingly and said, We'd better leave quickly. There's a late-stage, nascent soul cultivator here. If we delay, something unexpected might happen. You're right. Her words reminded Niao Wushang. I remember that my master once set up an ambush here. If someone came in, he'd know. Jing Xingji's expression changed slightly. So you're saying he already knows? If there's no accident. Niao Wushang glanced at him. But you don't have to be afraid. Langtu Mountain isn't near here. Even if my master wasn't in closed-door meditation, he'd still need 1 or 2 days to get here. We're fast, so we'd be out by then. Your master is on Langtu Mountain. Mo Tiange was surprised. Yes. Niao Wushang looked at her strangely, wondering why she was so surprised. What's wrong? Mo Tiange and Qin, she looked at each other. Both of them felt lucky. Since we came to the far west, our targets are the 3 great danger zones. First, we'll go to Fallen God Abyss, then Fengsha City. Fortunately, we didn't go to Langtu Mountain first. Otherwise, if they ran into Master Songfeng, they'd have to settle their old and new grudges. Mo Tiange wasn't arrogant enough to think she could challenge the #1 cultivator in the Celestial Pole just because she formed her nascent soul. Enough. Jing Xingji was impatient. Since we're pressed for time, why don't we quickly pick up the things and leave? He took the lead. After taking 2 steps, he stopped and turned to Niao Wushang. There's nothing strange here, right? Niao Wushang glanced at him, then walked past him. As she walked, she ridiculed him. Turns out there's a lot of things you're afraid of. You. Jing Xingji was angry. He wanted to say something to save his face, but after thinking about it, he shut his mouth. Mo Tiange and Qin, she couldn't help but laugh and followed him. Whether it was Jing Xingji or Niao Wushang, they both had heavy pasts. One used to be a proud son of heaven, but he fell from a high place and endured more than 100 years of being ostracized. In the end, he was forced to betray his master. The other was lonely and suffered all kinds of abuse since he was a child. He couldn't even be a real person. Now that they could joke around and scrupulously like this, they must have gotten rid of their psychological shadow. As the 4 people and 1 beast walked forward, the murderous aura around them became stronger and stronger. In the end, Jing Xingji had to hold down his flying sword to control the murderous aura. Qin, she was a bit better, but his 3-yong real fire sword was also affected. Mo Tinga felt strange. Why is the white tiger's aura so strong? Whether it's the azure dragon or the vermilion bird, they wouldn't be like this. She thought for a moment, then said, it might have something to do with their attributes. The azure dragon is of the wood attribute, gentle and tolerant. The vermilion bird is of the fire attribute, warm and soaring. The white tiger is called a fierce god, but it's actually murderous and ruthless. It might also be because the white tiger's aura here is stronger. Jing Xingji interrupted. She nodded in agreement. As they spoke, a huge stone gate appeared in front of them. As the four of them walked closer, the mural engraved on the stone gate gradually became clear. On the stone gate on the left, there were rows of people wearing animal skins, rows of ancient chariots, and strong war horses. It was a scene of war. On the stone gate on the right, the chariots and horses were destroyed, and the ground was covered with corpses. It seemed to be a scene of war. Mo Tinga shook her head to get rid of the strange feeling and followed them into the main hall. In the spacious main hall, the towering stone pillars were painted with a mixture of gold and white, extending all the way to the front of a huge stone statue. Standing in front of the stone statue, a murderous aura assaulted her face. Its limbs were strong, and it had a pair of wings on its side. Its huge head was raised, and it opened its mouth to roar. Jing Xingji shook his head in disappointment. Why isn't there a psychic magic weapon here? Mo Tinga collected her thoughts and said, the Vermilion Bird Bow is in the Vermilion Bird Sacrificial Temple because Ice Palace has it. Then where does the white tiger's aura come from? Mo Tinga smiled, but didn't say anything. There was no vermilion bird bone in the Vermilion Bird Sacrificial Temple because Ice Palace refined it into the Vermilion Bird Bow. The white tiger's aura in the White Tiger Sacrificial Temple was so strong, so the bone should still be there. This isn't your purpose, right? Mo Tinga looked at Nia Wushang. Nia Wushang said, why don't you wait here? I'll be right back. Cultivation techniques were cultivators' secrets, so Mo Tinga didn't say much. Go then. After Nia Wushang left, the three people and one beast looked at each other. In the end, Jing Xingji asked, where are we going next? Mo Tinga shrugged. How would I know? Jing Xingji glared at her. How could you not know? The two of them stared at each other for a while before Mo Tinga smiled. If there are no accidents, the white tiger's bone should be in the sacrificial temple. Let's look for it. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Jing Xingji raised his flying sword and was about to leave. Wait. Mo Tinga stopped him and pointed at Fei Fei. Fei Fei's here. Why are you in such a hurry? Fei Fei curled its lips and cast a disdainful glance at Jing Xingji. It then jumped down from Mo Tinga's shoulder and flew away. Let's go. Mo Tinga called out and followed it. As they followed Fei Fei, the white tiger's breath became stronger and stronger. In the end, they rushed into a stone door. What they saw was a huge white tiger more than 100 feet long. It was lying quietly on the ground as if it was resting, but it was completely lifeless. Mo Tinga was stunned to see this scene. What's going on? After millions of years, there should only be a skeleton left, just like the azure dragon. Why is there a complete white tiger here? Fei Fei? She called out. Fei Fei was also stunned. It stood at her feet, hesitating to go forward. Upon hearing her call, it scratched its head and said, don't ask me. I also don't know what's going on. Jing Xingji was puzzled. Alive? Or dead? She didn't say a word. With a wave of his spiritual aura, the 3-yong real fire sword emitted a sword light that pounced on the white tiger. Hey, Qin Shoujing! Jing Xingji shouted. She ignored him. The sword light touched the white tiger's body. It suddenly shone brightly, and a blazing aura hit them in the face. What's going on? Mo Tinga was surprised. She had to exert some force to retract the sword light. The white tiger's breath. His expression changed again and again. In the end, he said, it seems we can't take this thing away. Why? Jing Xingji looked at him strangely. No matter how big the white tiger is, we have Chinquan rings. Why can't we take it away? Qin Shi didn't explain. He just said try it. Jing Xingji thought for a moment, then pointed his right hand. The sword light also pounced on the white tiger. In the next moment, his expression changed greatly. He clenched his teeth and retracted the sword light with great difficulty. Mo Tiange was about to ask when the ground suddenly shook. What's going on? Chapter 549. Nie Wuxiang rushed over like a gust of wind. Let's go. My master's here. The three people and one beast turned their heads at the same time. What? Nie Wuxiang said eagerly. My master's here. He's fighting with that late nascent soul devil cultivator. Mo Tiange was stunned. So, the shaking here was caused by a late nascent soul cultivator? When nascent soul cultivators fought, the ground would shake in a small area. Not to mention they were the strongest among nascent soul cultivators. How could he come so fast? Jing Xingji asked. I don't know. Nie Wuxiang was flustered. Let's go. If we run into him, fellow Taoist Nie, calm down. Mo Tiange pressed her shoulder. You're no longer his little disciple who can be beaten and scolded at will. What are you afraid of? Nie Wuxiang paused and took a deep breath. Soon, her mood stabilized. Yes, I've formed my nascent soul. Even if I'm not as strong as him, I'm an equal cultivator. He can't control my luck anymore. Her eyes were firm, and she clenched her fists. Let's go, she said. My master stayed in the late nascent soul devil cultivator for hundreds of years. His strength is incomparable to ordinary cultivators. It's better not to run into him. Mo Tiange agreed. They came to look for treasures, not to fight. Qin Shi and Jing Xingji also agreed. However, Jing Xingji looked at the white tiger with pity. What about this thing? You want to take the white tiger away? Nie Wuxiang was surprised. Jing Xingji looked at her strangely. Didn't you bring us here to take the white tiger away? Nie Wuxiang shook her head. This white tiger can't be taken away. Once it gets close, it'll be filled with killing intent and lose its mind. Otherwise, my master would have taken it away long ago. Mo Tiange was stunned. So this was what happened to Qin Shi and Jing Xingji just now. So this white tiger wasn't fated with them? Then why did you bring us here? Jing Xingji asked. Nie Wuxiang looked at him as if she was looking at a monster. Isn't the white tiger's breath here a great fated chance? You have a big appetite. Jing Xingji was speechless. If it wasn't for their encounter in returning Ruined Sea, he would have thought it was a great fated chance for him to absorb a bit of white tiger's breath. However, Qin Shi obtaining the vermilion bird Bao immediately raised his expectations. Let's go, Nie Wuxiang said. White tiger is right here. No one can take it away. If my master is free, we'll be out of luck. The three of them no longer hesitated. Qin Shi and Jing Xingji sheathed their swords. Mo Tiange dragged Fei Fei back into her spiritual beast bag, then followed Nie Wuxiang towards the entrance of the sacrificial temple. As they flew, Mo Tiange asked, How's your cultivation technique? Nie Wuxiang sighed and shook her head. Back then, when my master came here, he only sat in meditation to absorb the devil qi. I thought there was something mysterious about the devil qi, but after trying for a long time, I couldn't find anything. Mo Tiange had long expected this, so she wasn't surprised. The prime fiend steel in this sacrificial temple must have been taken away. Master Song Feng probably came here because there was still pure, primordial devil aura left here. Nie Wuxiang naturally wouldn't be able to get anything. How did you know it was your master? Jing Xingji asked. Nie Wuxiang rolled her eyes at him and said, I left devil aura on it, all right? She already said it just now, but she really didn't have the slightest memory. Jing Xingji shut his mouth after being despised for no reason. How could your master come here, so coincidentally? Qin, she continued to ask. Nie Wuxiang was very polite to Qin Shi's question. I don't know. I also think it's very strange. Even if he noticed us as soon as we came in, it's impossible for him to come here so quickly. They'd only been here for half a day, and Lang Tu Mountain wasn't close, so it didn't make sense for Master Songfeng to come here so quickly. Mo Tinga turned around and asked, "Do you think your master will definitely win?" This question made Nie Wushang smile bitterly. Although I hate my master to the bone, I was taught by him, so I couldn't be clearer about his abilities. Even if that person is one of the 3 great devil monarchs in Yunzhong, I don't think he's my master's opponent. Or in other words, in my eyes, no one in the world is his opponent. Then you, Mo Tinga, wanted to say that wouldn't she have to hide from Master Songfeng for the rest of her life until he passed away? But she thought that saying this might stab her sore spot, so she didn't say it. Nie Wushang guessed what she wanted to say, so she said sadly, "Fortunately, I'm younger than him. If he can't advance to the deification realm, he probably only has 300 or 400 years left to live. At that time, I'll be truly free." Mo Tinga was silent. She felt sad for Nie Wushang, but she also sighed for Master Songfeng. As it turned out, that insufferably arrogant Master Songfeng only had 300 or 400 years left to live. If he couldn't live forever, no matter how powerful he was, he would eventually become a pile of bones. As they talked, they dashed towards the entrance of the sacrificial temple. Before long, they returned to the Karst cave. The commotion from the fight was getting louder and louder. The sacrificial temple was only shaking, but inside the Karst cave, stones kept falling. Nie Wushang led them through many turns and detours in the Karst cave. Noticing that Nie Wushang didn't take the original path, Mo Tinga asked, "Where are we going?" Nie Wushang answered, "If we leave along the original path, my master will definitely notice that there's another path here, but it's a bit more difficult to walk." "I see." The 4 of them didn't say anything else and used their fleeing technique to leave quickly. Boom! A loud noise came from afar. The rock layers shook, and sand and stones fell with a rustle. Boom! Boom! The noise became louder. Presumably, the fight between the 2 nascent soul cultivators had reached its climax. Another rock fell. Nie Wushang, who was walking in the front, waved her sleeves and smashed the rock into powder without stopping for even a moment. Mo Tinga followed behind them, feeling something was wrong. It was said that nascent soul cultivators had the ability to move mountains and drain seas. However, this mountain was a small mountain, and the sea could only be an inland sea. The commotion now was too big. How could the great ancient sect choose this place as their secret storehouse be so fragile? The rustling sound became louder and louder. Nie Wushang, who was in the front, suddenly stopped, stunned. "What's wrong?" Mo Tinga asked after she stopped. Nie Wushang's face was pale. She pointed ahead. The road's broken. Not far ahead, the Karst cave was cut in half, and the entrance was blocked by sand and stones. She released his divine sense. A moment later, he said heavily, "Fengsha City is close to Shilling Mountain Range. The mountain must have collapsed just now. If we want to leave from here, we have to break through half of the mountain." It wasn't impossible to break through half of the mountain, but it would take more than a short time. Jing Xingji said, "How about we go back the way we came? Let's take advantage of the 2 of them fighting to get out." Nie Wushang shook her head. "If my master sees us, he'll definitely stop us." She smiled bitterly. "I betrayed him and know too many of his secrets, so he won't let me go." Mo Tinga had no doubt about this. Master Songfeng always sought revenge for the smallest grievance. Among his enemies, she wasn't a big deal, but Lord Taoist Jinghe only had a disagreement with him, and he still bore a grudge against him. Moreover, Nie Wushang stole many of his treasures and ran away. "Go!" Nie Wushang turned her head and looked at the ground. "Without me, you still had a chance to escape." She lowered her head and didn't dare to look up. At this moment, Nie Wushang's heart was filled with indescribable sorrow. When she escaped from the celestial pole, she thought she would die in the South Sea. She abandoned herself to despair and only hoped to taste freedom in her remaining years. Later, she met Mo Tinga in Yunzhong, strengthened her heart to seek the Tao, and finally became a normal person. If she could, she wouldn't ask for immortality or ascension. She just wanted to live happily like a normal person. But she knew her master wouldn't let her go. In her master's eyes, running away from him was equivalent to betraying him, not to mention stealing so many of his treasures. He would definitely catch her and punish her for her betrayal, just like her mother. In fact, she remembered what her mother was like. When she was born, her master was in closed-door meditation. When he came out, she was already 3 years old. At that time, she was ignorant and didn't know her happiness was so fake until one day, her master appeared and her mother suddenly disappeared. She remembered. She always remembered these things. After her master killed her mother, he didn't kill her, but he also didn't care about her. She didn't know what death was, and she certainly didn't know her mother would never come back. She cried for a whole day. Later, she couldn't stand the hunger anymore, so she looked for food herself. Many days later, her master appeared again. Seeing that she was still alive, he took her back to his cave. She didn't dare to recall these things, so she pretended she forgot. To her master, she was the evidence of his betrayal. She could only live humbly by his side and let him take revenge on her mother for her betrayal. Suddenly, she heard a sharp noise. She came back to her senses from her memories and turned around, only to see Jing Xingji cutting the stone wall with his sword. "What are you doing?" Jing Xingji glanced at her. "I'm running for my life, of course." "Huh?" She was stunned. Jing Xingji didn't look at her. He focused on cutting the stone wall and muttered, "I don't have the habit of sacrificing my companions." On the side, Qin Shi also summoned his 3-yong real fire sword. He smiled at her and said, "Fellow Taoist Nya, I'm someone your master must kill. He also won't let me off." Right after he said that, his 3-yong real fire sword also slashed at the stone wall. Mo Tiange was the only one left. She patted Nya Wushang's shoulder and went to help without saying anything. Nya Wushang stared at them in a daze. Gradually, the corners of her eyes became moist. "What are you waiting for? Come and help," Jing Xingji shouted. She smiled, wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, and walked over. The 4 of them worked together, quickly cutting a hole in the stone wall. Not long after, a long passageway had been carved out. As they were fighting, she suddenly stopped. "Something's wrong." Seeing his grave expression, Mo Tiange was puzzled. "What's wrong?" "Something's wrong," she said. "There's a strange aura coming from here." Mo Tiange was stunned. She used the soul refining art and spread her divine sense. There was indeed a strange aura that seemed to be coming from the storehouse. It was cold and gloomy. Just by touching it with divine sense, she felt goosebumps all over her body. This aura expanded very quickly. It was even faster than their escape technique, and it quickly spread over. The 4 people's expressions changed. Jing Xingji's expression changed greatly. Ghost Cultivator. Chapter 550. You've seen ghost cultivators? Qin Shi tilted his head and asked when he saw Jing Xingji calling out without hesitation. Jing Xingji nodded. "I saw them when I was wandering in Yunzhong." Mo Tiange remembered that ghost cultivators did exist in Yunzhong, but there were very few of them, and they lived in seclusion, so she hadn't seen them in Yunzhong. How could there be ghost cultivators here? She felt more and more strange. It was one thing to put the secret storeroom and White Tiger sacrificial temple together, but how could there be ghost cultivators here? Was this a treasured land of feng shui or a place of extreme evil? Nya Wushang was at a loss when she saw the 3 of them looking at her. I don't know. If she knew, she would have said it earlier and would have prepared for it. A cold and gloomy aura spread quickly. Mo Tiange reacted quickly and took out the Lotus Elemental Umbrella. The Lotus Elemental Umbrella had a restraining effect on Devil Aura, so it should also have some effect on the similarly negative Ghost Aura, right? The Lotus Elemental Umbrella floated in the air and emitted a spiritual light when it sensed the Ghost Aura. However, the Ghost Aura only stopped for a moment and continued spreading, and the Lotus Elemental Umbrella suddenly dimmed. Mo Tiange was shocked. The Lotus Elemental Umbrella was surrounded by a gloomy and deep black aura, silently but quickly swallowing the spiritual light of the Lotus Elemental Umbrella. She hurriedly took out a Chinquan bag and put the Lotus Elemental umbrella back into the Chinquan ring to prevent the ghost aura from corroding other magic weapons. The Chinquan ring was a mustard seed space that could store Chinquan bags that used spatial formations. Qin-Shi's three-yong real fire sword emitted a sword light that circled around and turned into a light shield, blocking the ghost aura. After refining the vermilion bird bow, Qin-Shi's real fire had completely transformed into the vermilion bird's flame. The vermilion bird was the symbol of light and had a natural restraining effect on ghosts and devils. "I'll block the ghost aura." "Hurry up," he said. Jing Xingji nodded and once again summoned his flying sword, which transformed into thousands of sword lights and hit the rock wall. Although they came from Fengsha City, they had walked underground for a long time and had long been out of Fengsha City's range. Judging from the surrounding rocks, they should be inside Shiling Mountain Range. The terrain of Shiling Mountain Range was complicated. Hopefully, they didn't go in the wrong direction. Otherwise, they would have to spend a lot of effort to leave. Alas, Mo Tinga sighed inwardly. She had come here to look for Xiao Xilan's remains. Treasure hunting was just a convenience. Now that the situation had developed beyond her expectations, she could only come back later. Speaking of which, it was strange. All the formations and mechanisms here had been cracked, so this should be Xiao Xilan's destination. Why couldn't he find any clues? Could it be that she didn't die here, but died outside after successfully obtaining the treasure? This was not impossible. If they found the treasure here and then turned hostile after they left, then the trail would be broken. How troublesome. She frowned. It wouldn't be easy for him to come here again. To them, ghost cultivators were completely foreign to them. If they were to really fight against them, they had no confidence at all. "Hurry up!" Qin-Shi, who was resisting the ghost aura, shouted. "Ghost cultivators are coming out." After the ghost Shi filled the air, the ghost cultivator finally appeared. That powerful and sinister aura caused one's hair to stand on end. It was the same chilling aura, but the ghost Chi was completely different from the devil Chi. The devil Chi was dark and terrifying, but it still belonged to the human world. The ghost Chi, on the other hand, made people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. They were at a loss and lost the will to live. Mo Tinga's divine sense also discovered the ghost cultivator. To be exact, it was a mass of condensed ghost chi. The ghost cultivator had no body, so even if it formed a ghost infant, it was still just a mass of aura. This ghost cultivator's aura was very powerful. It shouldn't be inferior to the nascent soul realm. As soon as it appeared, it went to where Master Song Feng and Devil Monarch Knight Frost were. The four of them heaved sighs of relief. It was good that the target wasn't them. But in the next moment, the four of them were stunned. After this ghost cultivator appeared, many other auras gushed out. They were all nascent soul ghost cultivators. 1, 2, 3, until there were dozens of them. Some of these ghost cultivators went to where Master Song Feng was, while others followed the auras of living people and floated towards them. Jing Xingji paused for a moment. Then he controlled his flying sword and crazily attacked the rock wall. They had no experience in dealing with ghost cultivators. With so many nascent soul ghost cultivators, if they fought, it would bode ill rather than well for them. However, the speed of these ghost cultivators was beyond imagination. In the blink of an eye, their ghost Shi pressed down on them. Buzz! The protective shield Qin Shi propped up dimmed. He made a hand seal, and his dantian lit up. The vermilion bird's flame hidden in his yang spiritual bead gushed out and poured into the protective shield. In a hurry, Mo Tinga turned her head to take a look and found that the ghost cultivators had already arrived. Before she saw ghost cultivators, she thought those with this kind of evil aura would be some kind of monster with a green face and fangs. But now that she saw them, she realized that ghost cultivators looked similar to humans. It was just that their bodies were transparent. For ghost cultivators, although they were a mass of aura, they still retained their human consciousness. Therefore, whether it was a ghost with a little bit of consciousness or a great cultivator who had formed a ghost infant, all of them would maintain their human appearance. Only those wandering souls whose consciousness had been erased would have no appearance at all. Who are you? Why are you invading our ghost city? After watching for a while, the leading ghost cultivator actually spoke. Seeing that they didn't intend to attack immediately, she said, "What ghost city? We came to look for treasures. We don't know what ghost city it is." The leading ghost cultivator was wearing scholarly clothes and a scholar's hat. He held a scroll in his hand, looking gentle and elegant. He was probably a scholar when he was alive. He looked at the four of them and said, "Nonsense. Since you didn't know this was a ghost city, how could you coincidentally destroy its foundation?" The foundation of a ghost city? The four of them were bewildered. She said, "We didn't destroy anything. Those two people have nothing to do with us." The place where these ghost cultivators appeared was next to the storehouse. Presumably, it was destroyed during the fight between Master Song Fong and Devil Monarch Night Frost. "Oomph." The scholar swung his sleeve and said, "Since you have nothing to do with us, what are you doing now?" The four of them were dumbfounded. Soon after, they realized that this ghost cultivator was talking about how they punched through the rock wall. Nia Wushang said, "Could it be that this West Mountain Range is your ghost city? There's a storehouse here, but it belongs to us human cultivators." "That storehouse belongs to human cultivators, but it's not yours," the scholar ghost cultivator said indifferently. "When we came here, the storehouse was already abandoned. In the past, when you human cultivators came here, you just took things and left, and we didn't care. But today you actually destroyed the ghost city. We can't ignore this." For what the ghost cultivator said, their ghost city had always been here. In the past, when Master Songfeng came here, they all knew about it. In that case, these ghost cultivators weren't ruthless people. Maybe they could talk to them. This fellow Taoist. She hesitated for a moment, but still chose to call them fellow Taoist. "We didn't know this was your resting place. Now that we know, we won't destroy it again." "Oomph." The ghost cultivator stared at them expressionlessly. "You said that because you want to leave, right?" She said calmly. "We were going to leave anyway. We don't want to have a conflict with you." He paused for a moment, then added, "Since you can become a ghost cultivator, you must have been a cultivator when you were alive. You should know that nascent soul cultivators aren't easy to kill. If we fight, neither of us will benefit. So why should we create more trouble?" The ghost cultivator didn't refuse immediately. Seemingly moved by Shi's words, he turned his head and seemed to discuss it with his companions. A moment later, the scholar ghost cultivator sent out a wisp of ghost aura from his hand and flew back the way he came. Is he sending a message? That was Mo Tinga's guess. After sending out this wisp of ghost aura, the dozen or so nascent soul ghost cultivators in front of Mo Tinga stopped talking and just stood there quietly. This scene was too strange. Mo Tinga felt it was absurd. Not to mention that the appearance of these ghost cultivators was strange, but the origin of these ghost cultivators was already a problem. For so many years, no one had ever heard of the existence of a ghost city in the Celestial Pole. Where did this ghost city come from? Were they originally here, or did they move here? According to ancient records, there were ghost cultivators in the early years of the Celestial Pole, but they disappeared later. Could it be that these ghost cultivators didn't disappear, but hid here and built a ghost city? In addition, were the nascent soul ghost cultivators so worthless? There were less than 100 nascent soul cultivators in the entire Celestial Pole, and they were scattered all over the place. Great sect that occupied large spirit veins usually only had nascent soul cultivators. Why did a ghost city of ghost cultivators have so many nascent soul ghost cultivators? Moreover, it was impossible for all the nascent soul ghost cultivators to come out in full force to deal with the few of them. In that case, didn't that mean there were 50 or 60 nascent soul ghost cultivators in this ghost city? And Mo Tiange was terrified when she thought of this. In that case, the power of this ghost city was too terrifying. If ghost cultivators came out, wouldn't the Celestial Pole Immortal Alliance, which was fighting on two fronts, be in more trouble? While she was lost in her thoughts, she pondered for a moment, then asked the ghost cultivator, "Fellow Taoist, how should I address you?" The scholar ghost cultivator's face was pale. He said expressionlessly, "My name is Wen Si." "So it's fellow Taoist Wen Si." She cupped his hands and said, "My surname is Qin, and my Taoist name is Shoujing. I'm a cultivator of Xianqing School." Upon hearing the words Xianqing School, the ghost cultivator's eyes moved, and he said stiffly, "So it's fellow Taoist from Xianqing School." Qin was curious. "Fellow Taoist, do you know about Xianqing School?" "We're all people," Wen Si said blankly. "Xianqing School has been established for more than 100,000 years. Of course we know about it." "So you're all cultivators of the celestial pole?" She asked tentatively. Wen Si's gray eyes flashed. "What do you want to say?" She said, "Fellow Taoist Wen Si, rumor has it that ghost cultivators have long disappeared from the celestial pole. As it turns out, you moved here and established a ghost city. You don't need to probe." Although Wen Si's expression was stiff, his mind was sharp. "We won't tell you about Ghost City's origin." She paused for a moment, then said, "In that case, fellow Taoist Wen Si, may I ask how Ghost City plans to deal with us? You previously let the cultivators who came here go, so presumably you don't have any hostility towards human cultivators, right?" Wen Si's gray eyes moved. He reached out to catch the ghost aura flying towards him and said, "You'll find out soon enough." Right after he said that, the ghost aura dispersed from his hand. His gaze shifted, and he raised his scroll. "The ghost venerable has ordered us to kill them all." Chapter 551. After being accused of destroying the ghost city by the ghost cultivators, Imotinga's group of 3 stopped punching through the mountain wall to avoid angering them. There were more than 10 nascent soul ghost cultivators in front of them. No matter how arrogant they were, they wouldn't think they could fight against them with just 4 people. Besides, this was ghost cultivators' territory, so it was better to be polite. They didn't expect these ghost cultivators to fight without saying anything. As soon as Wen Si finished speaking, more than 10 nascent soul ghost cultivators swarmed them. Among these ghost cultivators, Wen Si was in the middle stage of a nascent soul realm, and the others were in the early stage. If they were human cultivators, they wouldn't be afraid. Any one of the 4 had the strength to fight more than one. However, these were ghost cultivators, and they had no experience in dealing with ghost cultivators. Boom. The small cave couldn't withstand the spiritual pressure of the nascent soul cultivators. With a loud bang, stones flew everywhere. Before they started fighting, there was an empty space of several hundred feet around them. Seeing this, Qin withdrew his sword light. There was only a small cave entrance between them. He could occupy the cave entrance, and even if there were more than 10 nascent soul ghost cultivators, only 2 or 3 of them could fight. But now, the surrounding area was empty, enough to encircle them like an iron bucket. Although these ghost cultivators had stiff expressions and didn't look like living creatures, they weren't stupid at all. Imotinga took out a puppet and let it control the Fuxing sword. This puppet was wearing a magic weapon Taoist robe and holding the Fuxing sword, which was enough to fight against an early-stage nascent soul cultivator. A ghost cultivator rushed towards her. Imotinga waved her heaven and earth fan, and countless flowers and plants flew out of the fan, entangling the ghost cultivator. The ghost cultivator held a white bone stick and waved it without any fancy moves, knocking all the flowers and plants down. Then, the white bone stick chopped toward her. Imotinga's expression froze. In terms of cultivation level, she was similar to this ghost cultivator, but the ghost aura seemed to have a restraining effect on her magic weapon. The flowers and plants created by the heaven and earth fan lost control as soon as they touched the ghost aura. She didn't have much time to think. The white bone stick whizzed towards her. She raised her hand, and a huge rock appeared out of thin air, pressing heavily on the bone stick. The heaven and earth fan could create everything in the world. She also had 5 spiritual roots, so she could easily control anything. Just as she suppressed the ghost cultivator, the ghost aura transformed into needles and flew towards her. Mo Tinga raised her hand, causing a ball of golden lightning to appear in her palm. It rapidly transformed into a dazzling golden net that people couldn't look directly at. She waved her hand, and the lightning net met the ghost needles. Chi, chi, swoosh. The sound continued. As soon as the ghost needle hit the lightning net, it immediately disappeared. Lightning was the most positive thing in the world, and it was the nemesis of all ghosts and demons. Wherever the net was, the ghost chi would disappear without a trace. Seeing this, the ghost cultivators were in an uproar. Among the four of them, Qin Shi's vermilion bird flames were the hardest to deal with. Even the four nascent soul ghost cultivators led by Wen Si couldn't trap him. Jing Xingji was not someone to be trifled with. Sword cultivators pursued lethality to the extreme. Moreover, Jing Xingji had a ruthless personality. Once he drew his sword, he dared to slash at anything that stood in his way. The ghostly cultivators surrounding him were immediately suppressed by him. Nie Wuxian wasn't bad either. The primordial devil great technique she cultivated was an extremely overbearing cultivation technique, which just happened to be able to contend with ghost aura. If it wasn't because she had formed her nascent soul not too long ago and wasn't familiar with her divine ability, this ghost aura would have been devoured by her devil aura instead. Not only did Mo Tinga have a nascent soul puppet, but she also had a metal lightning restraining evil. None of the four of them was easy to deal with. These ghost cultivators originally thought they would be able to deal with the four of them very quickly, but they didn't expect they would fall into a stalemate instead. If they didn't outnumber them, some of them would have been killed as soon as the fight started. Upon seeing this, Wen Si shouted, the ghost cultivators all retreated and stood in their respective positions. Wen Si stared at the four of them and said gloomily, "You're all very capable. It seems I can only let you have a taste of the 10,000 ghost soul devouring formation." Once she finished speaking, she raised the scroll in her hand and shouted, 10,000 ghosts gather. The ghost cultivators all raised the ghost weapons in their hands. Countless wisps of ghost aura shot out from the ghost weapons and rushed towards the scroll in Wen Si's hand. Upon seeing this, Qin Shi took a step forward. The three Yang real fire sword light merged into one and pounced on Wen Si. However, he was still one step too late. The moment the sword light pounced on Wen Si, the surroundings suddenly darkened and all the light disappeared. Woo! Muffled ghost cries rang out. The three Yang real fire sword light stopped in midair, losing its target. Qin Shi turned his head to look around and found himself trapped in darkness. Not only could he not see the surrounding scenery, but even Mo Tinga's group of three also disappeared. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Huh. Yeah, woo. The ghostly wails rang out incessantly. Mo Tinga listened attentively, but she couldn't hear where they came from. She was surrounded by boundless darkness and emptiness, as if she was in nothingness. This kind of darkness wasn't so dark that she couldn't see her own fingers in front of her. Rather, as far as her eyes could see, the void was endless. No matter how far she walked, she couldn't see the end. Being in this darkness, it was as if even light was swallowed up. Behind her, a female ghost with loose hair suddenly appeared. Her long fingers silently stabbed at her. Chi! The moment the ghost claw touched her, a layer of golden light emerged on Mo Tinga's body. Ah! The female ghost screamed and was quickly swallowed by the golden lightning. The moment the female ghost disappeared, a headless person slowly walked towards her. To say it walked wasn't correct. To be exact, it floated towards her. Behind the headless man was a bloodied, skinless ghost. Mo Tinga felt a chill down her spine. She knew these ghosts were created by the 10,000 ghosts devouring formation and weren't her opponents. She had seen many bloody scenes, so she wasn't timid. However, looking at these horrible ghosts, she still couldn't help feeling disgusted. More and more ghosts floated towards her. She clenched her teeth, restrained the feeling of her hair standing on end, and focused on dealing with these ghosts. The cultivation level of these ghosts was only equivalent to the foundation building realm. Before they could touch her, they were hit by the golden lightning and instantly turned into ashes. However, the ghosts were endless, so she couldn't find time to break the formation. What was worse was that the cultivation level of these ghosts was getting higher and higher. Generally speaking, this kind of large formation that needed many people to activate could be broken as long as there was enough strength. However, Emotinga didn't think the four of them would have enough strength to break the formation if they fought separately. What should she do? At the same time, outside the storeroom. Old witch, you didn't come to the Celestial Pole to look for treasures just to die here, did you? Master Song Feng, who was hidden in the black clouds, glanced at the cold woman in purple. What do you want to say? Demon Monarch Knight, Frost wasn't angry at being called that. His face didn't even twitch, and he just stared coldly at the many ghost cultivators in front of him. On the other hand, the maid named Hong Xiao had a look of anger on her face. Hee hee. Master Song Feng said, I haven't had a rival in the Celestial Pole for many years, so I've been very lonely. It'd be bad if I beat you all at once. Let's save it for later. Demon Monarch Knight Frost glanced at him with a faint smile. I didn't come to the Celestial Pole to fight. Yuhumph. Master Song Feng said coldly. Do you think you can walk out of here alone? Your Excellency. Demon Monarch Knight Frost cast him a sidelong glance. I'm not from a Celestial Pole, so you don't need to put on the airs of the #1 cultivator in the Celestial Pole, right? The black cloud kept expanding and contracting. Obviously, Master Song Feng was very angry, but there was nothing he could do. Although he was the #1 cultivator in the Celestial Pole, this girl wasn't weak either. She was also in the late stage of the nascent soul realm, and her divine power was only slightly weaker than his. If he really wanted to get rid of her, he wouldn't be able to do it in a short amount of time. Fortunately, Demon Monarch Knight Frost didn't target him anymore. He said faintly, Fellow Taoist, we have to go out first. You can stay if you want. After he said that, the purple satin brought out Frost and Devil Aura and rushed toward one of the ghost cultivators surrounding them. As soon as the ghost cultivator came into contact with the ice-cold Devil Aura, he was immediately frozen. Demon Monarch Knight Frost waved his purple satin, and the ghost cultivator shattered with a loud bang. However, ghost cultivators didn't have bodies, so the power of this ice-cold Devil Aura was limited against them. The purple satin was pulled back, and the ghost aura shook for a moment before it gathered again. Humph. Master Song Feng didn't show weakness. The black cloud turned into a vortex and suddenly sucked in all the weaker ghost cultivators. The nascent soul ghost cultivator was furious. He controlled his ghost weapon and attacked the black cloud. Emo Tinga didn't stop attacking. Every time a ghost appeared, she would wave her heaven and earth fan. In an instant, the ghosts fell one after another. An hour had passed, and these ghosts swarmed over like a tide. She hadn't stopped to rest, so she couldn't free her hands to crack the formation. She was secretly anxious. Although the spiritual aura a nascent soul cultivator's dantian could hold was very large, it still couldn't withstand this kind of continuous fighting. In particular, the ghost cultivator's base camp was right here. If a more powerful ghost cultivator came, wouldn't they all be stewed? Just as she was thinking about this, she suddenly heard a phoenix cry. A red light rose, and a vermilion bird made of flames appeared in the darkness, instantly tearing it apart. Under the vermilion bird, Imo Tinga saw Qin Shi. She was delighted. She waved her golden lightning to stop the ghosts and rushed toward Qin Shi. Seeing your martial brother, Qin Shi looked back with a smile and put away the vermilion bird bow. He was still controlling the 3-yong real fire sword to kill the ghosts that kept rushing over. The darkness was slowly swallowed by the vermilion bird's flames, and light appeared again. Jing Xingji and Nia Wushang ran toward them, and the four of them reunited. I'm so disgusted. Jing Xingji looked at these ghosts with disgust. Could it be that when people become ghosts, they lose their sense of beauty? They were either missing arms or legs, or covered in blood. Could they really be disgusted to death? Although he said that, judging from his appearance, he still had strength to spare. Seeing that the 10,000 ghosts devouring formation was cracked, when C shouted, "Lay the formation again." How could Mo Chinga and the others give him this chance? Sword light and lightning struck when C at the same time. What should we do? After disrupting their formation, Mo Tinga said, "We can't go on like this. They have a lot of people, and this is the belly of the mountain. We can't kill them, and we can't escape either. We'll be worn down by them. If they were outside, it would be easy for them to escape, but nascent soul cultivators weren't easy to stop, and they were in the belly of the mountain. I have a way," Niao Wushang said. "Go back. We'll go back to the temple. They definitely can't get in. Right?" Mo Tinga recalled that when they were in the sea of returning ruins, those devils couldn't enter the Vermilion Bird main hall. Presumably, White Tiger was the same. She made a prompt decision. "Let's go." Chapter 552. Shooting an arrow from the Vermilion Bird bow required a lot of Vermilion Bird's flames, but She could only mobilize a very small part of the Vermilion Bird's flames in the Yang spiritual bead, so he could only shoot one arrow at most. Now that the arrow had been shot, he didn't have enough spiritual aura, so he couldn't exert his full strength. If other powerful ghost cultivators came, the four of them would be in danger. That being the case, they might as well rest in the White Tiger's sacrificial temple for a while and then plan their retreat. Having made up her mind, Mo Tinga ordered the puppet to lead the way. Although the puppet didn't have the secret techniques and natal magic weapons of nascent soul cultivators, it wasn't afraid of injuries, and control techniques had no effect on it. Now that it had the Fuxing sword, it wasn't much weaker. Most importantly, even if the puppet was damaged, it would be fine after a little repair, unlike real cultivators who had to recuperate for 30 to 50 years if they were seriously injured in the nascent soul realm. As for the Fuxing sword, after the devil aura and impurities were removed by the spirit-quenching water, it was definitely a high-grade magic weapon. Before Fu Yaozi left, he also gave Mo Tinga the incantation to refine the Fuxing sword. If she could refine it completely, it would also be a sharp killing weapon. Letting the puppet use the Fuxing sword was only a temporary measure. The Fuxing sword was a flying sword with thunder attributes, so it had to be matched with thunder techniques to fully display its combat power. Lifeless objects like dolls, which had no dantian and no divine sense, were most suitable for pure force treasures. However, these kinds of treasures were only suitable for martial cultivators. There were very few martial cultivators, and even fewer of them were of high grade. Wanting to find a powerful pure force treasure was even harder than buying a top-grade treasure. For this matter, they could only participate in more nascent soul cultivators' trade fairs in the future and exchange treasures. The puppet led the way, She followed closely behind, Mo Tinga and Niao Wushang in the middle, and Jing Xingji brought up the rear. After the three of them left, Jing Xingji looked at the ghost cultivators with a smirk. He took something out of his Qinkuan ring and threw it at them. Puff! The thing turned into a very faint smoke in the air. The smoke seemed to have a mind of its own. It divided into more than a dozen strands and entangled the ghost cultivators. The ghost cultivators were caught off guard. Before they could do anything, several loud booms rang out and thunder and lightning intertwined, fixing the ghost cultivators in place. "Let's go." Seeing that the ghost cultivators had fallen for the trick, Jing Xingji hurried to catch up with them. Mo Tinga looked back in astonishment. She knew that there was something called the Heavenly Lightning Seed, which was sealed with the soul of a demonic beast. Once it was thrown out, it would be extremely powerful. However, this kind of thing wasn't easy to make, and after one reached core formation, there were ways to break it, so it wasn't common. The thing that Jing Xingji had thrown out was very similar to the Heavenly Lightning Seed, but it was much more brilliant. Not only did it use smoke to obstruct one's vision, but it could also automatically close in. More importantly, it had the effect of freezing one's body. During a battle, If one could toss out one of these, one would be caught off guard and easily fall into a trap. Later, he would ask him where this thing came from. The ghost cultivator was locked in place for about 10 breaths of time. For nascent soul cultivators, this amount of time was more than enough. Even if they couldn't fly at top speed in the belly of the mountain, the four of them could still use their escape techniques to leave the ghost cultivator far behind. A moment later, the ghostly cultivators caught up to him. They had no physical form and were extremely fast. Even the most skilled human cultivators would not be able to catch up to them. Upon seeing this, Jing Xingji took out another thing from his universe ring and tossed it out. The ghostly cultivators stopped, and each threw out a ghost tool, assuming a defensive stance. In the end, the thing just fell down lightly and didn't explode at all. The ghostly cultivators were stunned. Wen Si was furious. She raised the scroll in her hand, and black characters flew out from between the pages, pressing down on them. Jing Xingji swung his flying sword, and countless sword lights formed a protective shield, blocking these black characters. This went on for about 7 minutes. The four of them took turns to attack, and they finally saw the entrance to the sacrificial temple. The closer they got to the sacrificial temple, the more obvious the white tiger's breath became. The speed of the ghostly cultivators gradually slowed down, and some of them even looked perplexed and uneasy. Upon seeing this, the four of them knew they had made the right bet. Sure enough, they didn't dare to enter the white tiger sacrificial temple. As they went deeper and deeper, the ghostly cultivators finally stopped. A ghostly cultivator asked fearfully, "Elder One, do we still want to go in?" Wen Si glared at the four of them angrily. In the end, she clenched her teeth and said, "Go back and report to the Ghost Lord." But another ghostly cultivator said, trembling with fear, "If we didn't kill them, will the Ghost Lord punish us?" Wen Si's gloomy eyes turned to him, and she said coldly, "You still hope that the Ghost Lord won't pursue this matter?" The dozen or so ghostly cultivators lowered their heads in silence. Wen Si said, "There's the white tiger's breath here. If we enter, we'll be burned." Think about it yourselves. The pain of being burned or the Ghost Lord's punishment, which one is more unbearable? Upon hearing Wen Si's words, the ghostly cultivators didn't say anything, and fear appeared on some of their faces. There was no such thing as spirit roots for ghostly cultivators to cultivate, and they had very few bottlenecks because they only had the power of the soul. The price they had to pay was that they were much weaker than humans and demonic beasts. Once their souls were burned, that terrifying feeling was unbearable even if they had already formed ghost infants. Moreover, if their souls were burned, their cultivation would also be greatly damaged, and it was even possible for them to regress. However, accepting the Ghost Lord's punishment was also very painful. After a long time, Wen Si sighed softly, and sorrow appeared on her pale face. "Let's go back. Even if we endure the pain of being burned, we might not be able to kill them. We might as well accept the Ghost Lord's punishment." Finally, a ghostly cultivator answered, "Yes, Elder. Asterisk, 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 they're all gone," Jing Xingji said. The four of them had arrived at the square where the white tiger was. The white tiger's breath was very strong here, so they didn't dare to get too close and sat close to the stone wall to adjust their breaths. Qin Shi opened his eyes and said, "They really are afraid of the white tiger's breath. They don't dare to come in, and we also don't dare to go out." Jing Xingji sighed. "Do we have to do closed-door meditation here for dozens of years and absorb the white tiger's breath before we can go out?" Qin Shi shook his head and said, "Why do we have to do that? Although we can't go out, we can call for help. Do you want to send a message to your ancestor?" Qin Shi smiled and glanced at him. "Are you very jealous?" Jing Xingji rolled his eyes. "Yes, I'm so jealous that you have someone to call for help." Not to mention that he had already left Gujin's sect. Even when he was still in Gujin's sect, he still relied on himself for everything. Despite his resentment, Jing Xingji's expression didn't show any self-pity. Obviously, his state of mind had been seen through. Qin Shi said sternly, "There are so many ghost cultivators here that we can't treat them lightly. Even if we go out, We have to inform the Immortal Alliance to make preparations in case ghost cultivators come out. The Celestial Pole will be in chaos. You mean, Jing Xingji seemed to be thinking about something. Although the Immortal Alliance is fighting on both sides, it's still possible to transfer a dozen or so nascent soul cultivators. This is a big move, Jing Xingji exclaimed at his heart. Transferring a dozen or so nascent soul cultivators for help was something he didn't dare to think about in the past. It was good enough that no one hit him when he was down. However, this was also a coincidence. Now that there was the Celestial Pole Immortal Alliance, they could gather so many nascent soul cultivators. A dozen or so. Do you think it's enough? Jing Xingji was worried about a lot of ghost cultivators. If a nascent soul cultivator leads them, it should be enough, Qin Shi said. Besides, there are tools to deal with ghosts, but they weren't valued because there were no ghost cultivators in the Celestial Pole before. Now that they know there are ghost cultivators here, it'll be much easier. Thinking that those ghost cultivators weren't very strong, Jing Xingji nodded. It seems you're going to ask your ancestor to come in person. Qin Shi looked at the white tiger in the middle of the square and said meaningfully, "We can't let others take advantage of it." Jing Xingji understood what he meant and chuckled. Before that, let's refine part of the white tiger's breath first. Once other nascent soul cultivators arrived, the white tiger's sacrificial temple would no longer be a secret. At that time, this sacrificial temple would belong to the Immortal Alliance, and it wouldn't be easy for them to absorb the white tiger's breath. Jing Xingji nodded. The white tiger's breath was a great fated chance, so how could they give it to others? Of course, they had to take advantage of it first. In any case, those ghost cultivators wouldn't dare to come in. However, when he thought of meeting those nascent soul cultivators soon, his face became gloomy. If there were people from Gujian sect among them, "What's wrong with you?" Mo Tinga asked from the side. Jing Xingji turned to look, but he was talking to Niao Wushang. Niao Wushang's eyes were closed, and her face was pale. Upon hearing Mo Tinga's voice, Niao Wushang opened her eyes and said, "This white tiger's breath." Mo Tinga was stunned. She suddenly remembered that the divine beast breath could restrain devil aura, and Niao Wushang cultivated devil techniques. "I'll go outside." Niao Wushang stood up. "If I stay here, I'll be injured even if I'm not injured." "Wait." Mo Tinga stopped her. "If the white tiger's breath fades, it won't be able to restrain those ghost cultivators. Besides, your master is outside. What will you do if you run into him alone?" Niao Wushang smiled bitterly. "What else can I do? If I stay here, I won't be able to resist the white tiger's breath." Mo Tinga thought for a moment, then took out a set of formation discs. This spirit-concealing formation of mine isn't an ordinary one. It should be able to isolate the white tiger's breath. Niao Wushang was skeptical. The white tiger's breath is so overbearing. "Want to be fine if I try?" Mo Tinga smiled, stood up, took a few steps, laid the formation discs one by one, and embedded spirit stones. "Okay, go in." Niao Wushang walked into the formation and sat cross-legged. "How is it?" Niao Wushang sensed it for a while, then said happily, "It's really isolated. This way, you won't have to leave." And Niao Wushang looked at her gratefully. Mo Tinga smiled, then went back and sat cross-legged. "She trusts you that much?" Qin Shi's voice came into her ears. Mo Tinga turned around and saw him looking at her. Just now, when Mo Tinga laid the formation, Niao Wushang walked in without hesitation, not even testing it. Entering other people's formation at will was a cultivator's biggest taboo. If she wasn't careful, her life might be in other people's hands. How could a person like Niao Wushang not understand this common sense? "I can also trust her like that," Mo Tinga replied. "Do you still remember that we used to be friends with life and death?" In Yunzhong, Niao Wushang was tricked into the Lost Cave by Mei Feng to be fed to Primordial Devil, and Niao Wushang put her life in her hands. Mo Tinga didn't think she could fake it at that time. "All right," Qin Shi nodded. "I trust you, so I also trust her." Mo Tinga smiled. Just as she was about to say something, she suddenly frowned, feeling something was wrong. Qin Shi's expression changed, and he said, "Someone's coming." Chapter 553. A few auras suddenly appeared, moving along the stone path towards them at high speed. The four people stood up at the same time, each casting their own defensive means. There were also 4 people coming, and 2 of them were very powerful. They must be Master Song Feng and Demon Monarch Knight, Frost Group. Qin Shi winked at Mo Tiange and said, "Run if you can't do it." Mo Tiange nodded. If Master Song Feng and Demon Monarch Knight, Frost were still enemies, they still had a chance to survive. If the 4 of them joined forces, the late nascent stage cultivators wouldn't be afraid. However, if Master Song Feng and Demon Monarch Knight, Frost joined forces, the 2 late nascent stage cultivators could only run. However, she thought the former was very likely. With Master Song Feng's personality, he would never share treasures with others. Demon Monarch Knight Frost Group already knew about the existence of this storehouse, so Master Song Feng wouldn't let them go. Now that they were fleeing together, it was probably because of the situation. As she thought about this, the people had already rushed through the stone door. Sure enough, it was Master Song Feng and Demon Monarch Knight Frost Group. As soon as he rushed in and saw them, Master Song Feng stopped, and the dark clouds surged. Mo Tiange turned her head and saw Nye Wushang leaning against the wall with a pale face and clenched fists. She sighed inwardly. She still underestimated Master Song Feng's influence on Nye Wushang. With her current appearance, it was more likely that she would stretch her neck and be killed. *TCH. A cold voice came from the dark clouds. Nye Wushang's face became even paler. She clenched her teeth and stared at Master Song Feng in front of her. "You got guts." Master Song Feng said word by word, carrying a bone-chilling, killing intent. Mo Tiange stared at Nye Wushang. Whether she could withstand Master Song Feng's power or not was the last obstacle for her to get new life. No one could help her with this. She could only rely on herself. Nye Wushang bit her lip and breathed heavily. All these years, she was very free and happy after escaping from her master's side. She thought she was stronger than before and was no longer the little disciple who trembled and didn't dare to breathe heavily in front of her master. Until now, she knew she was wrong. Master, when she heard his voice, she couldn't restrain the fear in her heart. This fear was deeply planted in her heart from the first time she saw him. Even though she was no longer the helpless child who had lost her mother, even though she had formed her nascent soul and become a top cultivator, she still trembled when she saw him. "Master!" She heard her own hoarse voice. Even to this day, she could not help but call him Master. *TCH. Come here and die." Master Song Feng's hoarse voice was full of hatred. Nye Wushang bit her lower lip so hard that it almost bled. "Bitch!" She remembered that when she was young, her master often looked at her and scolded her. "Bitch!" She knew that her master wasn't scolding her, but her mother. But today, this word was finally used on her. "Bitch!" She recalled the year when she was 3 years old. She recalled being brought back to the cave abode by her master and being beaten and scolded day and night. She recalled being thrown into the prime devil pool often, suffering so much pain that she wished she were dead. Nye Wushang's gaze went blank for a while before it finally fixed. She took a deep breath, raised her head, and said slowly, "Master, I'm not a bitch, and neither was my mother." Her voice was calm and tranquil. There was neither anger nor fear in it. Although she called him Master, her voice was flat, devoid of respect or fear. The black cloud paused. All of a sudden, the black cloud dispersed as if it was blown away by the wind, revealing Master Song Feng's true appearance. A wizened middle-aged man who looked like human skin draped over a skeleton. Mo Tiange suddenly recalled her master's evaluation of Master Song Feng. He was neither human nor ghost, neither Dao nor Dao, neither devil nor devil. He was simply a monster. The Master Song Feng in front of her was indeed like that. If he was a human, his facial features were lifeless, but if he was a ghost, they would fluctuate. With a hoarse voice, he asked word by word, "What did you say?" "Master." Niao Wushang stared at him without fear. "I said, I'm not a bitch, and neither was my mother." "You?" Master Songfeng took a step forward and stretched out his skeleton-like hand, as if he wanted to grab Niao Wushang. However, with a soft sound, an invisible sword aura made a circle in the air. With a poochie, it pierced the ground between the two of them and cut the flagstone. Master Songfeng raised his black, hole-like eyes and stared at a place not far from Niao Wushang. Under his terrifying gaze, Jing Xingji smiled and raised the sword in his hand. "Sorry, my hand was wrong." At such a close distance, even an aura-refining cultivator couldn't possibly make a mistake. A black light flashed in Master Songfeng's eyes. Jing Xingji, however, showed no fear. As if he didn't see anything, he continued to admire his flying sword. Master Songfeng's wizened eyes moved, and he said slowly, "So it's you juniors." Qin smiled as if he was seeing an old friend. He cupped his hands and said, "It's been years. Senior Songfeng, how have you been?" Emo Tinga then greeted him. "The last time I saw Senior was on Demonic Mountain. In the blink of an eye, it's been 100 years. You?" Master Songfeng was a bit speechless. If he remembered correctly, he once did something that disgusted them. Although he didn't see it happen with the arrangements at that time, there shouldn't be any accidents, so why did they? Master Songfeng looked at Qin Shi and suddenly smiled gloomily. "Qin Shoujing, are you satisfied with the gift Demonic Mountain gave you?" Upon hearing this, Qin Shi and Imo Tinga looked at each other and smiled. Master Songfeng was testing them. It seemed that the matter back then was still his proud handiwork. "Master." The one who interrupted was Niao Wushang. She said faintly, "Disciple forgot to tell you that I ruined that matter." Master Songfeng suddenly turned his head and stared at her. After a long time, he shouted, "Be *tch die." The black cloud swept over and instantly appeared in front of Niao Wushang. Niao Wushang raised her arm, and a mass of primordial devil aura appeared in front of her. It turned into the shape of a shield and forcibly took this blow. Pooh! Niao Wushang vomited a mouthful of black blood and fell to the ground. But to everyone's surprise, Niao Wushang just wiped the corner of her mouth and still stood up. Master Songfeng attacked out of anger and didn't hold back his strength at all. It was a full blow from a late-stage nascent soul cultivator. Logically speaking, a new nascent soul cultivator like Niao Wushang, who had advanced to the nascent soul realm for only a few years, shouldn't be able to withstand it. Fortunately, there was White Tiger's breath here to restrain Master Songfeng's devil art. Although his cultivation level was high and he could move as usual, the power of his attack was reduced. Niao Wushang was inside the spirit-concealing formation, but her strength wasn't affected. Moreover, the power of that blow was also blocked by the formation, so the injury she suffered was neither light nor heavy. Master Songfeng became even angrier when he saw that he didn't kill her with one blow. He wanted to attack again, but a puppet suddenly flashed over and stood in front of him. Then Imo Tinga said slowly, "Senior Songfeng, aren't you too impatient?" Master Songfeng's withered eyes moved back and forth in his eye sockets. He looked at Niao Wushang, then looked at Imo Tinga. Finally, he sneered at Niao Wushang. "Be *tch, you've really become capable. You actually pulled someone to stand up for you." Looking at the four people in front of him, Master Songfeng felt like he was filled with rage. He hated this be *tch. When she followed him, she pretended to be well-behaved and didn't dare to say a single word. But in the end, she paid lip service to him and even stole his most important Chinquan bag while he was recuperating in the primordial devil pool. How could he not hate her? He hated her so much that he wanted to grind her bones and scatter her ashes. Because of her escape, he lost a lot of magic weapons. For the past 100 years, he didn't dare to take a single step into Kunwu, lest his old enemies took advantage of his misfortune. It had been 100 years. He hid in Lang Tu Mountain for 100 years, and all of this was because of her. For the few hundred years he had left in his lifespan, how precious was 100 years? But what about this be asterisk TCH? She took his Chinkoan bag and lived freely for 100 years. She even formed her nascent soul, thinking about how her cultivation level and happy times were all exchanged for his 100 years of being a good-for-nothing. He controlled his hatred, especially when she returned to the celestial pole and even brought others to his treasury to take treasures. That be asterisk TCH was just like her mother, but fortunately, he hadn't lost his mind. Now that this be asterisk TCH had a helper, she wasn't someone he could casually kill. These juniors had all formed their nascent souls, especially Chin Shojing, who had advanced to the middle stage. The four of them had joined forces, but his strength was suppressed by White Tiger's breath. There was also that old witch from Yunzhong eyeing him like a tiger watching its prey. If he wasn't careful and ended up being besieged by them, the losses would outweigh the gains. Looking at Nie Wuxiang, Master Song Feng calmed down again and said coldly, "What? Weren't you afraid of becoming a devil cultivator? You still dared to practice primordial devil great technique?" Nie Wuxiang lowered her eyes and said faintly, "Whether I'm a Dao or a devil, it's all in my heart. What does it matter whether I practice a devil technique or not?" Her words made Master Song Feng furious again. She stole his Chinkoan bag and took away his primordial devil great technique. But she actually dared to talk about her heart with him? Black aura surged, and he once again returned to his black cloud appearance to cover up his anger. "What a good heart," Master Song Feng said coldly. "B asterisk TCH, have you been happy these 100 years? I'm not a B asterisk TCH." As soon as he finished speaking, Nie Wuxiang raised her head. This time, there was arrogance and anger in her eyes. "What right do you have to say I'm a B asterisk TCH, Master?" Before Master Song Feng could answer, Nie Wuxiang had already taken a step forward and stood ramrod straight. "I'm a human with flesh and blood, thoughts and feelings. I wasn't born to be your slave, and I don't owe you anything." Looking at the black cloud, she said word by word, "You have no right to belittle me." This B asterisk TCH was just a casual rebuke from Master Song Feng. She took it so seriously just for the last sentence. "I came to this world only because of the kindness of my parents. I'm also a precious life, not a dispensable existence. My existence is meaningful for me and doesn't depend on you. You have no right to belittle me." "Master," Nie Wuxiang said slowly, "I used to be afraid of you. When I was preparing to return to the celestial pole, I thought I'd never be able to face you in this lifetime. But now, I want to tell you that from now on, my life has nothing to do with you anymore. My life only belongs to me." Chapter 554. She used to hate her own existence before she left her master. Back then, in order to hide from her master, her mother hid in the mountains of the secular world. After her master killed her mother, he didn't care about her and left her to fend for herself. If her master didn't come back, she would either become a savage or die. Fortunately, her master came back. After she was brought back to Langtu Mountain, her master threw her to his disciple, who was also her senior brother. Her senior brother's personality was the same as her master's: temperamental, cruel, and merciless. Fortunately, her mother never offended him. He was just indifferent and didn't mistreat her. At that time, her senior brother was in a hurry to break through to core formation and didn't care about her at all. Other than ordering the villagers nearby to bring her food and water, he didn't care about her anymore. When she was a little older, her senior brother began to ask her to do things, such as taking care of herbs and cleaning the cave. In order to make it easier for her to do things, he taught her cultivation and how to read. This was the reason why she was a martial cultivator. If not for what happened later, her senior brother didn't treat her badly, and she could even be said to be indebted to him. Her master would occasionally come out of the seclusion room, but when he saw her, he never had a good expression. Sometimes he would just call her a bitch, and sometimes he would throw her into the essence devil pool, making her beg for death. Every time her master threw her into the essence devil pool and watched her struggle, he would yell at her, call her mother a bitch, or call her a bastard. At that time, she hated herself. Why did she have to exist? If not for her, her mother wouldn't have to escape and wouldn't have died. If she didn't exist, she wouldn't have to live such a torturous life. Gradually, she grew up. For more than 10 years, she had been submissive and finally won the trust of her master and senior brother, who handed over all the affairs of the cave to her. Her master often went into seclusion, and her senior brother was busy with core formation. Those were the happiest days of her life. She often went down the mountain to see those ordinary, she roamed people living ordinary lives. She hoped that one day she could also live such a life, even if she lost her cultivation and became immortal. Unfortunately, she didn't live happily for long. Her senior brother failed to form his core and was in a bad mood. If she didn't do a good job, she would be scolded and beaten. Her senior brother was the successor that her master found after much effort. To help him cultivate, her master would even catch mortals into the essence devil pool to create essence devils for her senior brother to swallow. Someone like her master would actually be so obedient to a person, and all she got was scolding and beating. In these depressing days, cultivation became her only hobby. Only when she cultivated could she get rid of the depression in her heart. Only when her cultivation improved could she prove to her master that she had some value. Master began to send her out to do things. When she first killed, her hands, she couldn't throw, but she gradually got used to get. 4-2. She pretended that she had no mind, that she was a tool, to make herself feel better. Senior Marshal Brother has been stuck at the peak of Foundation establishment for a long time and has never been able to form his core. Senior Marshal Brother once hoped that his master could help him advance, but his master scolded him harshly. If he needed someone else's help during the core formation stage, how could he form his nascent soul and become a great cultivator in the future? Master was in in. Recalling the past, Nie Wushang clenched her fists, her nails digging deep into her palms. Her master used primordial devil aura to open her meridians and poured it into her body to help her senior brother. Therefore, Master used the primordial devil chi to open up her meridians and infuse the primordial devil chi into her body to help senior brother. Because of the pain of essence devil entering her body, but also because of despair. It was not only because of the pain of the primordial devil entering his body, but also because of the despair he felt against his will. To escape this fate, she even thought of self-mutilation. The funny thing was, she didn't succeed in the end because her senior brother lost his breath while cultivating. She escaped the fate of being plucked, but she understood that she was only a tool in her master and senior brother's eyes. She was jealous of Mo Tienga because she also had a master and senior brother, but they had completely different orders. Failing to pluck, her senior brother went to Kunwu to look for a chance to form his core, but he never came back and died in the hands of Xianxing School's Qin Jing, his disciple. Her master had old grudges against Qin Jinghe, so he was furious when he heard this. But she was secretly happy. Without her senior brother, there was one less person to beat and scold her. Her master spent a lot of time in closed-door meditation, so her life was much better. That was indeed the case. After her senior brother died, her master wholeheartedly took revenge and always practiced secret techniques, so he didn't have much time to torture her. Because he lost his disciple, her master finally regarded her as his disciple. Although he often beat and scolded her, he was no longer as ruthless as before. Several decades passed. Qin Shoujing, who killed her senior brother, advanced to the core formation realm and became famous in the celestial pole. Xianxing School had its sixth nascent soul cultivator and became famous. Her master finally couldn't bear it anymore and wanted to take revenge. She met Mo Tienga at Lord Taoist Xuanin's nascent soul ceremony. Before that, she was already used to this kind of life and never thought about betraying her master. Her experience at Xianxing School made her envious and jealous of female cultivators from prestigious cultivation groups. More than 50 years later, she successfully formed her gold core and followed her master to Demonic Mountain. The short time they spent together finally made her decide to betray and escape. She also wanted this kind of life, to be free and to walk under the sun openly. Then, she stole her master's Chinkoan bag while he was healing and escaped from the celestial pole. This was the boldest decision she made in her life. If she succeeded, she would be free. If she failed, she would die without a corpse. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Do you think your life is your own just because you escaped once? A voice came from the black cloud. Nie Wuxiang stood there with unprecedented firmness in her eyes. My life has always been my own. I didn't understand it before. Master Song Feng sneered. He was obviously angry. After laughing enough, he said in a hoarse voice, "Your life is your own, so hand over the things that don't belong to you. I've raised you for so many years. Which part of your body doesn't belong to me? Your cultivation level, your cultivation technique, and your Chinkoan bag." Nie Wuxiang bit her lip and lowered her head. Master Song Feng continued, "Fine, your life is your own. You ran away, but why did you steal my Chinkoan bag? Why did you bring people to Fengsha City? *tch, don't speak so righteously. Which part of what you did was honorable?" Nie Wuxiang still didn't answer. She didn't think there was anything wrong with what she did, but she couldn't answer her master's question. After a moment of silence, they suddenly heard a chuckle with a hint of mockery. Jing Xingji tapped the sword in his hand in boredom and said, "This is really funny. You're only allowed to kill other people's mothers and treat other people like slaves for more than 100 years, but you're not allowed to steal your own things. Oh my, this kind of person thinks he's a god." "Yes." Mo Qianga stared at the surging black clouds, then sneered and said, "If you ask me, how can a mere Chinkoan bag compensate for killing my mother and working hard for more than 100 years? You're lucky you didn't kill someone and pay with your life." "Exactly." Jing Xingji clicked his tongue and said, "I hate people who like to humiliate others the most and don't allow others to resist. If it was a little girl, I could understand. Which girl hasn't dreamed of being a princess? But if it's an old man, especially an old man with one foot in the coffin..." The two of them teamed up and ridiculed each other to the extreme, which immediately angered Master Song Feng. The black cloud he had transformed into kept surging. Finally, after Jing Xingji finished speaking, the black cloud pulled out a long line and shot towards Mo Qianga. Mo Qianga waved the heaven and earth fan, and a blue shadow suddenly jumped out. It opened its mouth and swallowed the line shot by Master Song Feng. Master Song Feng was stunned. After the blue shadow swallowed his black cloud, it circled around and returned to the heaven and earth fan. Azure Dragon. He was confused, thinking he was mistaken. How could there be an Azure Dragon? Demon Monarch Knight Frost and the others who were watching the show were also shocked. As soon as they came in, Master Song Feng had a conflict with the four of them. The three of them simply watched the show and didn't intend to intervene. It would be best if the two of them were to fight. Demon Monarch Knight Frost stared at Mo Qianga holding the fan, lost in thought. Seeing this, Tianqian asked in a low voice, "Shuanger, what's wrong?" Demon Monarch Knight Frost looked at Mo Qianga and raised his chin. "I've seen her." "Her?" Tianqian looked at Mo Qianga in confusion. As he looked at her, he also became confused. "Oh, it's her." This time, it was Demon Monarch Knight Frost who was confused. "Do you know her?" Tianqian said, "Do you remember that when I formed my gold core, I was tricked into the maze cave by Mei Feng, the Lord of Fallen Stars City?" Demon Monarch Knight Frost nodded and suddenly remembered something. She was also among them. She and Jianxin were also survivors from that time. As soon as they came in, they didn't see Jianxin and Black Robe, but Jing Xingji and Nie Wuxiang. They immediately understood that these two people were in disguise. However, they couldn't help but feel confused after listening to their conversation. What was the background of these two people? It sounded like they were from the Celestial Pole, but how could they know so much about Yunzhong and the auction? Oh, right. Yi Shuang remembered. Wasn't Mei Feng killed by fellow Taoist Qin? At that time, Mei Feng wanted to attack little friend Mo. It seemed that it was because of this matter. "Shuang, Where did you see her? Tianxian asked when she didn't speak. Returning Ruins Sea, Demon Monarch Night Frost said. You haven't seen her, but you must have heard of her. The matter of returning Ruins Sea wasn't a secret to the high-level cultivators in Yunzhong. Tianxian thought for a moment and remembered, then exclaimed in shock, It's her. Yes. Devil Monarch Knight Frost nodded slowly and stared at Immo Tinga. Little friend, Immo isn't simple. As a core formation cultivator, she stirred up a mess in Yunzhong, formed her nascent soul, and returned to the celestial pole. Oomph. Demon Monarch Knight Frost snorted coldly. She was a cultivator in Yunzhong. Now that the one-leaf island in Yunzhong no longer existed, she was also affected, and the main culprit was this woman in front of her. How could she have a good impression of Immo Tinga? However, she couldn't touch her this time. Not to mention she had several nascent soul companions, but this was the celestial pole, so she couldn't act rashly. Little friend, Immo should be a disciple of a large sect or clan in the celestial pole. If she was touched and attracted some extraordinary people, it would be bad. If there was a chance later, she'd just have to make her suffer. That was what Demon Monarch Night Frost thought. Chapter 555. The fiery red sword light hovered above the four people's heads for a while before it finally returned to his arm. She stared at Master Songfeng and said faintly, Senior Songfeng, you can't use your full strength here. He didn't attack, but he didn't hide his intention to show off. Master Songfeng didn't say anything or attack. He was irritable, but he wasn't stupid. He had enmity with so many nascent soul cultivators in the celestial pole, but he could live well until now because he was strong, but also because he was smart enough. He knew when he could take advantage of others and when he should stop. White Tiger's breath restrained his devil aura. He didn't dare to come here until he entered the nascent soul realm after cultivating primordial devil great technique, and he could move normally only after he advanced to the middle stage. Here, he could only use 70% of his strength at most. Those juniors had all formed their nascent souls, especially Qin Shoujing, who had advanced to the middle stage. Besides, there was also the old witch from Yunzhong eyeing them covetously. If they fought, wouldn't that be exactly what she wanted? With that thought in mind, Master Songfeng said, When this is over, I'll deal with you. He then found a corner to rest and recuperate. Seeing this, the four people secretly sighed in relief. Although each of them had formed their nascent souls, they were still afraid of facing the number one cultivator in the celestial pole who had accumulated power for hundreds of years. If they really fought, they might not necessarily lose. At the very least, Qin felt that if he could use the vermilion bird bow, he would be seriously injured even if he could withstand it. Seeing this, Immo Tinga secretly passed a bottle of medicinal pills to Nie Wushang. Quickly heal yourself. Nie Wushang forced a smile and pushed it back. No need. Healing medicinal pills had a certain effect on devil cultivators, but primordial devil aura wasn't the same. For her, even if she only had one breath left, she could still recover. Just as she was about to take a good rest, she suddenly saw someone coming from another corner. Right now, there were 3 parties in the sacrificial temple. One party was the 4 of them, one party was Master Songfeng, and the last party was Devil Monarch Night Frost and the 2 devil cultivators. In terms of strength, the 3 parties were about the same, forming a balanced situation where no one could attack at will. The 4 of them couldn't reconcile with Master Songfeng. As for Devil Monarch Night Frost, although they didn't have any grudges, they didn't dare to trust him. At this moment, the one walking towards them was the maid, Hong Xiao. 10 feet away from them, Hong Xiao stopped and bowed. This servant is Hong Xiao. Under the orders of my city lord, I invite everyone here for a chat. With Night Frost Demon Monarch here, Hong Xiao restrained her emotions and politely invited him. She glanced in that direction. Demon Monarch Night Frost was still expressionless, but he gave him a slight nod. Before he could say anything, Jing Xingji interrupted, If you want to chat, just come over. Why do you want us to go over? Hong Xiao lowered her eyes and said, My city lord is only here for one item. As for the other items, she will not fight with you. Everyone, please be at ease. Right after she finished speaking, Mo Tinga said, Miss Hong Xiao, you almost took my life the first time we met. Hearing this, Hong Xiao smiled embarrassedly, not knowing what to say. She was Devil Monarch Knight Frost's maid, but in fact, she was equivalent to his disciple. There were many people in the City Lord's mansion who took care of those mundane matters, so she didn't need to do them. She only needed to deal with some things that were inconvenient for Devil Monarch Knight Frost, and these things were usually paved by someone else. On the other side, Devil Monarch Knight Frost finally came. Unlike progenitor Miao Ying, this late-stage, nascent soul great cultivator still maintained the appearance of a 17 or 18-year-old girl. She was young and beautiful. If she hid her cultivation level and appeared in front of others, she would probably be regarded as a junior who had just stepped on the path to immortality. Fellow Taoist, Mo Devil Monarch Knight, Frost's gaze fell on Mo Tinga first. I didn't expect you to form your nascent soul after we parted at the sea of returning ruins. Mo Tinga smiled slightly. Nia Wushang told her that her deeds had spread throughout Yunzhong, so Devil Monarch Knight Frost naturally knew she had formed her nascent soul. However, since Devil Monarch Knight Frost was so polite to her as a late-stage nascent soul great cultivator, she had to give him some face. Mo Tinga stood up and saluted him. Senior Knight Frost, long time no see. You're still as elegant as ever. She's just an old witch. What's there to talk about elegant? Devil Monarch Knight Frost said faintly, then looked at Qin Shi. Fellow Taoist Qin. Qin Shi returned the salute. Fellow Taoist Knight Frost. Devil Monarch Knight Frost glanced at Jing Xingji and Nia Wushang, then asked, How should I address you two? Jing Xingji chuckled. I'm Jing Xingji. Greetings, fellow Taoist Knight Frost. Seeing his frivolous attitude, Tian Xian snorted coldly. Devil Monarch Knight Frost turned a blind eye to him and looked at Nia Wushang. Nia Wushang sat cross-legged inside the spirit-concealing formation and said, I'm Nia Wushang. I'm injured. Please forgive me, fellow Taoist. If a late-stage nascent soul cultivator took the initiative to talk to an early-stage nascent soul cultivator, who wouldn't be flattered? Nia Wushang's behavior could be said to be rude. Devil Monarch Knight Frost in mind. He nodded lightly, then pointed to the two people beside him. This is my disciple Tian Xian and my maid Hong Xiao. After greeting them, Devil Monarch Knight Frost said, Fellow Taoists, you don't mind us coming uninvited, do you? Qin Shi smiled and said, How could I dare? Fellow Taoist, if you have any advice, please say it directly. Knight Frost Demon Monarch glanced at Master Song Feng in the other corner and said, I don't dare to give advice. I just want to make it clear to fellow Taoists that we didn't come here with the intention of becoming enemies with you. Is that so? Mo Tinga smiled and glanced at Tian Xian and Hong Xiao. Devil Monarch Knight Frost understood her meaning, but he said, Fellow Taoists have some disagreements with that fellow Taoist Song Feng. Presumably, you don't want to have a conflict with us, right? Mo Tinga withdrew her gaze and didn't say anything. Devil Monarch Knight Frost was a late-stage nascent soul cultivator, so he didn't lower himself to explain to them. Instead, he spoke in a domineering manner. Mo Tinga knew he was right, but if they showed weakness easily, they would be at a disadvantage if they continued talking. Qin Shi chuckled and said, What fellow Taoist said is reasonable. It seems you also think so? Devil Monarch Knight Frost paused and looked at them meaningfully. Yes, we didn't come here from thousands of miles away to fight. Qin Shi nodded and said, Since that's the case, fellow Taoist, you might as well speak your mind. Devil Monarch Knight Frost said, We came here for one thing. As long as fellow Taoists don't fight with us, we won't be your enemy. Qin Shi had heard about this from Hong Xiao, so he smiled. If it has nothing to do with us, we naturally won't fight for it. He didn't say anything definite. There were some things they could give up, but there were some things they couldn't. It should have nothing to do with you. Yi Shuang's lips curved slightly, revealing a smile. She was a very beautiful woman. Although she was a devil cultivator, she had a cold demeanor like snow. In addition, Devil Monarch Knight Frost paused and looked at Master Songfeng. Fellow Taoists, what do you think of those ghost cultivators? Mo Tinga's gaze also turned to Master Songfeng. They didn't put up a soundproof barrier when they talked here, so Master Songfeng must have heard them clearly. However, he didn't move at all. He just turned into a black cloud and curled up in a corner to recuperate. She pondered for a moment, then asked, "Excuse me, how many ghost cultivators besieged you, and what are their cultivation levels?" Devil Monarch Knight Frost glanced at Tianxian and said, "More than 20 people, including 2 late-stage nascent soul ghost cultivators." His face was expressionless, but his pale blue face seemed to have a glimmer of light. Mo Tinga frowned. In that case, didn't they dispatch 40 nascent soul ghost cultivators? Hearing this number, Jing Xingji also frowned. What's the origin of this ghost city? Why are there so many ghost cultivators hiding here? 40 nascent soul cultivators was a shocking number in Yunzhou. There were only about 100 nascent soul cultivators in the entire Yunzhou. This ghost city had mobilized 40 nascent soul ghost cultivators just to kill them. How many nascent soul ghost cultivators were there in total? At least half of them, right? Don't tell me your celestial pole doesn't know there's a ghost city here? Tianxian said. His tone was full of doubt and contempt, which made Mo Tinga feel very unhappy. Although Mo Tinga didn't like his tone, she still said calmly, "The celestial pole is different from Yunzhou. Almost all the cultivators in the celestial pole are concentrated in Kunwu. There are neither spiritual lands nor spiritual objects in the westernmost desert, so naturally, no cultivators set foot there." Tianxian snorted and didn't say anything else. She went on to say, 40 nascent soul ghost cultivators, and there might be other ghost cultivators in the ghost city. If they block the exit, we only have 8 people. We can't fight them at all. Fellow Taoist Qin is right. Devil Monarch Knight Frost glanced at Master Songfeng again. In this case, we can only be trapped here if we go our own way. She smiled. Fellow Taoist Knight Frost, you mean, naturally, we'll leave together. The black cloud finally moved, and Master Songfeng's voice came from inside. Old witch, you don't need to test me. I certainly don't want to be trapped here. Devil Monarch Knight Frost raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "I'm not talking to you." Oomph. Master Songfeng snorted. Since that's the case, don't blame me for not helping. Devil Monarch Knight Frost didn't care at all. If he didn't help, they couldn't get out. It would be strange if he didn't help. She glanced at Master Songfeng and said, "We can't defeat the 40 ghost cultivators in the ghost city, let alone all the ghost cultivators in the ghost city. How can we get out?" Devil Monarch Knight Frost said, "Where there's a will, there's a way. Whether we can get out or not is still uncertain." She exchanged glances with Mo Tinga and said, "Fellow Taoist, do you have an idea?" "Yes." Devil Monarch Knight Frost turned to look at Hong Xiao. This mate of mine has a strange, secret technique. She can go and explore. Mo Tinga was stunned and asked, "You can enter the ghost city?" After receiving Devil Monarch Knight Frost signal, Hong Xiao said, "Yes, I have a secret technique that allows my primordial spirit to leave its body and sneak into the ghost city." Primordial spirit leaving its body? Mo Tinga and the others were astonished. Even Ye Wushang, who was regulating her breath and healing her injuries, opened her eyes. For nascent soul cultivators like them, their primordial spirits already possess power, but their primordial spirits were still far from being able to leave their bodies. Even if they reached the deification realm, their primordial spirits still couldn't leave their bodies. This kind of secret technique was unheard of. Mo Tinga was vigilant. This Hong Xiao's strength was average, but she had this kind of secret technique, so she couldn't be underestimated. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.